The following show is brought to you by the CANUCKLEHEADS Broadcasting Company, eh? All right, and we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the CANUCKLEHEADS Show. My name is Frankie, and I am from the New West Reset channel.
And I'm Chris from Old World Exploration. And Frankie, we've been doing this for 2 years now, believe it or not.
Yes. Wait, what?
I just looking like about 2 years almost.
I don't believe you.
2 years. Well, what do you know? Well, it's what is this? Episode 16, right?
Yeah, 16. Yeah, we've that aren't aware of what the Knuckleheads is. Two Canadian fellas, one by the name of Frankie and myself, decided maybe it was a good idea to get into this old world tartaria content, whatever you want to call it, with a bit of a Canadian flavor attached to it. So we go around checking out a lot of the old stories and old architecture and infrastructure of Canadian cities in particular, until our most recent show, which we went abroad. But that's typically what we've been doing now for a couple of years, and trying to shed a little light on the geography of Canada as it relates to the old world and our hidden history, I guess you could say.
That's right, and obviously the catalyst for that being that we're both Canadian, and our provinces, the provinces that we live in are both neighboring provinces. You're in British Columbia in Western Canada on the Pacific coast, and I'm in Alberta, one province east of you, and we share kind of the Rocky Mountain Range, kind of divides us, kind of sort of for the most part.
Joint custody, I would call it.
Yep, we share the beautiful Canadian Rockies, and we met here online just through the community, and got together for a chat, and as they say, one thing led to another, and now we have 3 children. Wait, no, that's something else. I'm kidding.
3.5.
That's right. There's one on the way.
That's right. There's one on the way.
So yeah, Chris is right. We like to look at things from a Canadian perspective, and for the most part, we explore Canada, although we have had requests to go on road trips. So we did take it on the road and did Edinburgh, Scotland recently, which was a lot of fun, and it was an excellent suggestion.
Actually, it was Glasgow, just for the record.
Oh, see? You see what happens?
If it's no Scottish, it's crap!
Oh. Way to go, you knucklehead. I ruined it already. So yeah, that's we like to we have obviously a goofy Canadian sense of humor, and we like to point that back in on our own home country here, and share that with you, because it's just as wacky and strange up here in Canada, as it is everywhere else in the realm, where you look at a building and then the narrative is, oh yeah, that was built in a year, and you're like, wait, hold on, what? Wait, no, that's impossible.
Out of stone and brick, of course.
Yeah, even today, that would be a challenge.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So we like to shine the spotlight in our own backyard. And the show has been well received. But if you're new to the show, that's how we do it. We like to keep it Canadian for the most part. Canuck is a nickname for somebody who is a Canadian.
But if you're not
but
Canadian,
that's our word.
You're most welcome to join us, even if you're not Canadian. This is not an exclusive club here by any means.
Absolutely, yeah. That's why we like to do the deep dives, because we basically are finding this stuff out on the fly live as we're sharing it with you. We'll do a little bit of research ahead of time, but we really like to dig into the nitty gritty in real time and learn together, because even though it is Canada, as anywhere else is mentioned, the official story is obscured or peppered with half-truths, and things have been altered and changed and made up, and just bold-faced lies. So,
And we got a lot of royal influence up here. We got a lot of well, a lot of church influence. It's all the same story no matter where you go, really. Seems, Just wanted to do a sound check too. I did see a comment. How's my audio, guys? Am I coming in a lot quieter than Frankie, or are we pretty much on par? Just curious.
Yeah, if you could let us know in the chat how the sound is.
I turned it up after I saw that comment, but I've had
While
bad
we're here,
issues.
let's say hello to everybody in the chat. What do you think, bud?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Have Bliss is here. Hello, hello, hello. Kathy Broughton as well. Howdy, Kathy. Brace yourself. Turtle! Turtle's here. It's just a thing Turtle and I do. I don't know why I do it. Hello, Pasture of Castles. How you doing? That's Bruce, right? Melted Syracuse, New York. Heidi's Patch News is here as well. RD. Hello, RD.
Yeah, I'm guessing Pasture of Castles is John Butler too, with a play on words from his book that I chatted with a while back.
Ah, yes, indeed. Hello, Dragonfly. Good to see you. Ubu Khan is here as well. Philip I. Good to see everybody. Hello, hello. Neo Drifter. Oh, I like that. Saying low, but Frankie good. I'm just a loudmouth schnook, is what it is.
It might be my headset. It might be time to get something new. I don't know.
Mark's here, our melted reality. He says, do I need a passport to watch from Alabama? Certainly not, Bama. Absolutely
No.
not.
Just make the contribution. You do have to pay a toll.
Yeah, got to pay a toll. But it's in Canadian dollars, so it's a real good bargain for you down there, eh, buddy? Like a Canadian dollar is like, what, 38 cents American? Not quite, but might as well be.
About that, yeah.
That's one of the top 3 things Canadians do when they before they travel to the U.S. is they seek out all the places that are just across the border, if you're taking a road trip, that is, to see, is there any places left that take the Canadian on par with the American? That's because that's where I'm fueling up my gas or whatever.
Yeah.
So what are we looking at for the show here, buddy?
Well, we decided to look at Halifax, Nova Scotia, which is way over on the other side of the continent from where I am, from where you are even. And it's got some history to it. Even as far as the narrative goes, it's got a bit of history, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, just like the narrative of everywhere here in the quote unquote New World, right? The East Coast developed much earlier on, so they tell us, and therefore it has what we're told is an older history, and therefore one would assume much more. I don't know. It's the Swiss cheese shenanigans. You know what I'm saying? Let me just pull it up here on the maps here, give everybody an idea of exactly where we're looking at here in beautiful Canada land. So I know some people are going to lose it. Why is he showing it on a globe? Just easy, it's fine.
Sacrilege.
So here's Canada land right here, of course. You've got, Ontario and Quebec, everybody's heard of. Montreal is right here. So we're in Nova Scotia, and we're going to be looking at Halifax, which is right here, right in this natural sort of a bay or inlet here. It's right here. Halifax, Nova Scotia. New Scotland, right? That's what we're told. New Scotland.
The New World, part of the New World, right?
Hello, Chassie. Good to see you. Chassie Nix is here. Hello, hello. So let's look at. We both like to reference the Wikipedia, because it's a good go-to for what most normies use as their online research tool. So that's kind of what I tend to.
Yeah, it's like the McDonald's of research. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's on every corner. Yeah.
That's right. So, I mean, people don't get off their tuchus and go to the library and look up and research stuff anymore. Even, I'm guilty of that. I mean, I do have a lot of old research books, but this is what your normie's going to be doing when they're looking at Halifax. And Wikipedia, generally speaking, no matter, it's got a pretty high percentage of no matter what you're looking up on here, you're going to find some wacky stuff in the narrative for sure.
Well, I find when you dig a little deeper, you're just going to get snippets of what Wikipedia grabbed anyway. If you try to go to like the official library source of Halifax, you're just going to get the same stuff. So Wikipedia does sort of collate, if that's the right word, all of these sources and puts them all in this one spot, right? So this is normie narrative, like you said. This is what you're saying.
If you look up Halifax, Nova Scotia, but you go to a different website than Wikipedia, most likely they've copied and pasted stuff from Wikipedia onto their site anyway. Yeah. So it's the capital of the most populous municipality of the Canadian province of Nova Scotia and the most populous municipality in all of Atlantic Canada. As of 2024, the population of Halifax was just over 500,000, with about 350,000 living in its urban area. So they amalgamated with, that makes it a good sized city overall.
Yeah.
It amalgamated, Halifax amalgamated with Dartmouth, Bedford, and Halifax County in 96. Dartmouth is just on the other side of the bay, or whatever you call that. And that's where you would find a lot of the Mi'kmaq peoples, the indigenous Eastern Native Canadians, who also lived in, Newfoundland. They also can be found in Newfoundland and Maine and Vermont, but it's kind of their main hub historically has been in and around Dartmouth. Let's look into the history a bit. Oh, there you go, the Mi'kmaq right here. So the Mi'kmaq name for Halifax is Kajiptuk.
Well done.
Tuk.
Well done.
Yeah, I'm slowly learning Mi'kmaq, but I'm terrible at it. Chibuktuk. The name means great harbor in the Mi'kmaq language. The first European settlement permanently in the region, Halifax Peninsula, established town of Halifax, named after the second Earl of Halifax. Not the first, I guess, but second. Howdy, Brian. I am Brian. This is Howdy from Syracuse. So in 1749, led the transfer of the colonial capital from Annapolis Royal. The establishment of Halifax marked the beginning of Father Loutres' War. Began Father Leloutre's War. There's Cornwallis. We see his name a lot in Canadian history, don't we? So they signed some treaties with the Mi'kmaq, and then they brought in 1,200 settlers and their families.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had to sign some treaties with the Mi'kmaq because the Mi'kmaq were pretty fierce, and they were not just going to roll over and take it. You know what I'm saying? Their traditions say that they're there for about 30,000 years, and even conventional quote-unquote experts say about 20,000 years. So, also, hey, we'll split the difference, 25,000 years, give or take, that the Mi'kmaq have been in that area.
Remember, this is history, and we do question history, so you never really know.
Exactly. So Acadian and French attacks on the new Protestant settlements, along with the Mi'kmaq. So the British fortifications were erected in Halifax, Bedford, Dartmouth, and Lawrencetown. And what they mean by fortifications is, as you can see on that little pop-up map there, lots of batteries.
Looks like a star almost.
Yeah, some kind of star-shaped fort of some sort, one might say. Isn't that interesting?
Sus.
Yeah, isn't that, that's what the kids say these days, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, I mean, come on, man. What's the first thing you think when you look at that and you see that fort there? You know, I mean, it's it's right there. So December, where are we at here? Okay, so they built all these forts. First settlement by French-speaking foreign Protestants at French Village, Nova Scotia, migrated from Lunenburg during the American Revolution. Then they jump all the way to December 6, 1917.
But before you go any further, I just wanted to mention, too, the Acadian aspect of this is really interesting. I don't know if you were going to get into that, but they basically...
Well, the Acadians are French-speaking maritimer Canadians that were descendants of the old French colonists from France. And they maintained all of their French language, customs, songs, food, clothing, you name it. Way of life. And when they were basically booted out by the British.
They were rounded up by the British and sent down to Louisiana.
Yep, they made their way to the only other French settlement at the time, or French territory at the time in all of North America, which was the Louisiana Territory. So they made their way there, where they spoke basically a very similar dialect of French. And the Acadians eventually became the Cajuns.
Yeah. Hey, did you ever hear the song Acadian Driftwood by the band?
Yes.
Great tune. Recommending it to everyone out there. Just made
yes. The band are a great band.
Canadian band.
Well, yeah. Mostly. Except for the late, great Levon Helm, who I believe was from Arkansas. God bless him. God rest his soul.
Yeah, they were great.
Yes, I'm a big fan of the band, actually.
Me too.
And that song is lovely. So, they jumped for some reason from 1754 to December 16th, 1917, because this is their big headline. This is what Halifax is known for.
That's just hilarious. It comes right up. Yeah.
It's one of the great disasters in Canadian history when the SS Mont Blanc, a French cargo ship carrying munitions, collided with the Belgian relief vessel, the SS Emo, in the Narrows between Upper Halifax Harbor and Bedford Basin. Get this, people. The resulting explosion, the Halifax explosion, devastated the Richmond district in the north end of Halifax, deleting approximately 2,000 people and injuring 9,000 others. The blast was the largest artificial explosion before the development of the nuclear boom booms. I'll say it again. The largest artificial explosion before the development of the neutron bomb. That is something else.
Yeah.
And that is their, let me tell you, when you're looking into and doing alternative history research into Nova Scotia in general, but Halifax specifically, it's really hard to circumvent this whole narrative. It's, as you can see here, it's so important to their narrative that they jumped from the 1750s to just before WW1, or actually, during WW1.
Hey, Frankie, I'm just
no mention of
switch my mic here. Just don't mind me.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, go ahead.
So, yeah, and I think, and Chris and I were talking about this before we went live, that we're both in agreement. And this, of course, this explosion kicked off a bunch of fires and destruction and basically destroyed a lot of the city. And he and I believe that, and we were talking about this, that this was, the powers who should not be, or who, however you want to refer to them as, this was their excuse or the catalyst, the tipping point for them to kick into action, rolling out a reset and altering the official story for Halifax, Nova Scotia. Yeah. A lot of the old world buildings were destroyed in the blast and the ensuing fires. This happened in the winter. So then, of course, you have the problems with, you try to put out the fires and everything freezes. And as water freezes, it expands, and that gets into cracks and crevices and causes structural damage there. Oh, now we got to take it down.
Yeah, reset narrative.
Pipes
Can you hear
freezing.
me, by the way?
Yep. Yeah, actually quite a bit more
Is that
clearly
better?
too.
Quick mic check, guys, for those of you that have been with us. Is this better? Sorry.
Let us know
Let's
in the
continue.
chat. So yeah, we were both in total agreement that this would have been, opportunists as they would be, the controllers, that this would be the perfect opportunity for them to jump into action and start changing everything around.
Not
so
that
much
they
so
would do
that
such a thing.
oh no, of course, this is all just conjecture on our part. But Mega Triumph and Pasture Castle say, yeah, much better. Getting thumbs up from Mark as well. Patty G says sounds good.
Hey,
Excellent.
speaking
Thanks,
of
everyone.
thumbs, why don't if you're watching and you haven't hit that thumb, why don't you guys do Frankie and I a favor and hit that thumb? I don't know if it does much on YouTube anymore, but it doesn't hurt.
Every little bit helps. We appreciate any of the support you could give both of our channels.
Mm-hmm.
Give us a thumbs up, leave us a comment, share it to people that you think might be interested, or people that live in and around Halifax.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly chime in the chat, please. Absolutely, if you're a local in and around this area. But yeah, you see how they just jump to that narrative, to this narrative. And when I was researching, yeah, it's not impossible, but it's really hard to avoid the great Halifax explosion, to find other hanky stuff to poke holes in the narrative and see what other shenanigans they're pulling in the timeline without it constantly encountering this, which obviously is very tragic,
Mm-hmm.
and it is a big part of the history of that city. But when you want to look into other things, it can be a major stumbling block, to say the least. But I did find some other things.
Like
before
what?
we do that, we'll quickly get into the Halifax thing, because there's just no avoiding it.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think you and I are both, can agree that, yeah, this thing is the new narrative being rolled out.
We got to cover it for sure, and yeah, we got to see what they're on about here.
But you'll always see that it's, the world's pre-atomic or pre-nuclear. I mean, they've always got to put that out there, of man-made, right? I mean, volcanoes or whatever might have stronger blasts, but in terms of us goofing around with stuff we probably aren't supposed to be, oh yeah, we'll do it every time, eh? So not all deletions that occurred in WW1 were a direct result of enemy action. Many examples of incidents and accidents throughout the Great War resulted in injury, loss of life, damaged property. Perhaps the most significant of these accidents is surprisingly also one of the least well-known. I don't know about, at least not around here, man.
Yeah.
You just type Halifax into the Goggle machine, and this is going to come up as probably the 5th or 6th thing, if not earlier.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
As part of the effort to provide relief to Belgium, the Norwegian transport ship, the SS Emo, which had been built in 1889, had been chartered by the international but American-based organization, the Committee for Relief in Belgium Fund, with the intention of taking supplies from the USA to Belgium. Sailing empty from Holland to New York, she arrived for inspection in Halifax, Nova Scotia, December 3rd, 1917, where she was detained for a few days. On Thursday the 6th, the French tramp steamer, the SS Mont Blanc, was heading towards Halifax, launched in 1899. It's not a very old vessel. It had been bought by Transatlantic General Company, a French state-owned corporation that was responsible for a large proportion of France's wartime shipping requirements. The Mont Blanc was packed full of military explosives, including TNT, picric acid, benzol, and gun cotton.
Bit of a cocktail there, eh?
On the same ship. I don't know if that was a wise decision. Like, that doesn't seem too smart.
It's like mixing your drinks on an evening out. It's only going to end in trouble.
Right.
So leaving the Bedford Basin and Halifax Harbor, the Emo sailed towards the open sea via the Narrows. But due to other traffic and contrary to regulation, sailed on the port or left-hand side of the Narrows rather than the starboard or right-hand side. traveling at 7 knots, which although slow was above the speed limit of the 5 knots. The emo caused a tug to steer closer to the shore to avoid collision. Mont Blanc, meanwhile, examined and not taken on board, yada yada. Okay. So basically, the collision was the pilot of the Mont Blanc gave a signal blast on the ship's whistle to indicate correctly that the Mont Blanc had the right of way, which was answered by 2 blasts from the emo, indicating she was not willing nor or not able to yield their position. Angling to the right near shore, Mont Blanc again whistled, hoping the emo would do likewise and also steer to its right. The emo again whistled twice. Hearing the series of blasts and whistles and realizing a collision was about to take place, many sailors gathered on nearby ships to watch. A morbid curiosity, one would say.
Yeah.
Oh, this happened in slow-mo right before our eyes. Can you imagine that? Yikes.
Yeah.
Let's all get out on the poop deck, I guess, and watch the thing go down. Counting the mistakes already made, the emo reversed, causing sparks to be created. This ignited vapors released from the damaged cargo, and fire broke out within the Mont Blanc. Not surprisingly, the crew of the Mont Blanc rapidly headed for the lifeboats in order to escape the ship, which was likely to explode at any moment. One of the ships in the harbor was an obsolete cruiser, which was no longer seaworthy and was permanently moored in the dockyard for use as a depot and training ship. After the collision, that ship's captain sent his steam pinnacle with 6 volunteers to go help the stricken vessel. At the same time, the steam pinnacle headed for Mont Blanc. They sent a whaler to rescue people. Wow, just like whatever you could do to scramble, I guess.
Yeah.
Approaching the Mont Blanc, which was now engulfed in flames, Triggs decided to board the tug in order to confer with her captain. After a brief discussion and leaving the cruise of the tug to deal with the Mont Blanc, Triggs and the whaler was pulling towards the emo when the inevitable happened. The Mont Blanc exploded. Time was about 9:05, just 20 minutes after the collision. Force of the explosion destroyed Niob's steam pinnacle and deleted its crew, while the only person to survive on the High Flyers whaler was able seaman William Becker. The blast was the world's largest pre-atomic boom boom. Parts of the Mont Blanc were blown 1,000 feet into the air, some coming down over 3 miles away. The water in the harbor evaporated, and the inrushing sea caused a tsunami 60 feet high.
Wow.
Which swept into the town of Halifax.
That's strange.
And the cloud from the explosion. Yeah, no, I've never heard of that. So the explosion was so huge that it evaporated the water.
And caused the
I
sea
guess
to
created
flood
a
in.
vortex, which caused the sea to flood in, which then caused a 60-foot tsunami.
Weird.
That's wacky. The cloud from the explosion rose to over 20,000 feet, and the blast destroyed or damaged every home and factory within a 16-mile radius, a total of 12,000 buildings. So there you go, Chris. Like you said, the perfect reset. 12,000 buildings. Schools, hospitals, but also homes, old world homes and private residences. A freaking Mi'kmaq village was destroyed. Unbelievable. Look at this building that was destroyed.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course, it's got, a dome with a cupola on it.
The style of the time.
There's the ugly commemoration.
Yeah, that's awful.
Monument. Yeah, that's fugly as hell, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yikes. It makes you not want to go and pay respects.
It's almost, an homage to the destruction, more so than a memorial, like they always seem to do.
Yeah, that's right. They're celebrating the destruction rather than paying tribute to the loss of life, it seems.
See that a lot.
So, yeah, there it is, the Halifax explosion, which, I think it's still ranked as Canada in the top couple of Canada's worst disasters of all time.
Oh, I would think so. Oh, yeah.
Natural or otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
It was a big deal. They still have the clock on the clock tower at some building. I think the old town hall that was only had received minor damage. So,
Yeah.
one of the clock faces, the one that faced the harbor, is still at 9:05 or whatever that time was. I think 9:05.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I did find some other things that were very interesting about Halifax that are a little tougher to find out about. But after cross-referencing, I was able to go back onto the Wikipedia, and I did find a page on it. But this, I had no idea. I was shocked about this next one. This is, again, the Wikipedia. And again, links below, by the way, for everything that we're covering. But this is the Halifax Dartmouth Ferry Service. And this is what shocked me. The Halifax Dartmouth Ferry Service is the oldest saltwater ferry in North America. And the second oldest in the world.
Wow.
After the Mersey Ferry linking Liverpool and Birkenhead. Today, the service is operated by Halifax Transit and links downtown Halifax with 2 locations, Alderney Landing and Woodside in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. So the origins, the first ferry service in the region was put in place by the founder of Halifax. Oh, so he found the place and put a ferry in. There he is, Sir Cornwallis again.
Smart guy.
Oh, of course. He used the ferry service to move raw materials and people from a sawmill located on the Dartmouth side of the harbor. And in November of 1750, the Nova Scotia government assigned John Connor of Terminator fame, I guess.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
To operate the ferry service. In February 1752, Connor's contract was renewed for 3 more years. This began the official ferry service between Halifax and Dartmouth. At this time, regulations stated that the boats would be run from sunrise until sunset through weekdays with a fare of 3 pence.
Bit steep.
That's 3 pennies, man.
Back
But
then.
we didn't have Canadian pennies back then, so that's what it was. I guess it is a bit steep.
It's a British pence. Come on.
Yeah. In these early stages, there was no schedule, or since how we're talking British, no schedule.
Yeah, that's right.
Patrons would simply walk down to the pier and be taken across as needed. So if there's just like one guy, he would take you across. Seems like a lot of bother, but okay. Connor operated the ferry for only 1 year, and after his departure, the operation of the ferry changed hands twice more before 1786. The first ferry-built vessel to be employed in the harbor was not until 1816. The Sherbrooke, classified as a horse boat, being powered by, in Sherbrooke's case, 9 horses walking in a circular motion in the center of the ferry, powering its central paddle.
Okay.
Have you ever heard anything as ridiculous as that in your life?
Sounds like they were trying to get her going again. And all they had was horsepower at their disposal.
It's the damn electric streetcar trolley tram thing.
But set to water.
But with a bloody ferry.
Yep. That's what it feels like.
And their horses are just Conan the Barbarian around in circles to power this thing, I guess. Well, the same thing as barges going up and down canals that we always hear about. Oh, a horse would pull it up and down the canal back in the old-timey days before the railroad came through, right? So I guess it's the same ridiculous shenanigans.
Poor horses, eh? Poor horses.
Getting a little bit of echoing on you from me. Your mic's picking me up, I think.
Oh, maybe.
Old World, Michigan, asking carousel. Kind of, yeah. The horses would go in a circle, and that would power the central paddle. Ridiculous. All right, so let's see here. This ferry was thought to be a large improvement to the previous service due to its speed and ability to transport more people and cargo from either side of the harbor. This ferry operated in the harbor until 1830, when the first steam ferry, the Sir Charles Ogle, entered service. Continuing
Cool.
ferry service remained the only effective way of crossing the harbor until 1955, when they finally built the Angus Al MacDonald Bridge. So 1816, it was horse boat with horses. Why they had steam power in 1816? Why did they wait until 1830 to get a steam powered engine going? Guess he wanted to make sure the business was well entrenched. I don't know. Weird. The current generation of the ferry system was implemented by the former city of Dartmouth as part of a major revitalization projects undertaken in both Dartmouth and Halifax in the 70s. All 5 ferries currently in service were designed by Bedford-based company EYE Marine Consultants. Bedford, Connecticut, I would guess. In 1994, the city of Dartmouth transferred control of the ferry system to Metro Transit, later known as Halifax Transit. And there you go. You get a bunch of rest in that article. Talks about the fleet and how they beef up the fleet and maintenance and all that stuff. But I was shocked. The oldest saltwater ferry service in North America and second oldest in the world. Huh. Did you ever heard that one before? I think Chris is playing with his mic, perhaps. Anyway, the other thing I found, again, once you hurdle or circumvent the Great Fire narrative and finally get into some other wacky shenanigans, found this Halifax Farmers Market, another great claim to fame. Again, the Wikipedia, so take it for what it's worth, take it with a grain of salt, but the Halifax Farmers Market is the oldest continuously operating farmers market in North America. So they got to keep pushing this Halifax explosion narrative, but they've got the oldest saltwater ferry in North America and the oldest farmers market in North America. And if you didn't know what to look for, there you are, bud.
Hey, I don't know if you can hear me, but I can't hear you, so I'm going to hop back to my my crappy mic.
Oh,
can you hear me?
Too bad. I can hear you. Yeah, can you hear me? Nope, I'm guessing you can't hear me. I'm just typing it in the chat. Sorry about the technical difficulties here, everyone. You know how it is when you're, got a couple of show hosts that are on either side of the Rocky Mountains here. So having been founded in 1750, over the years, the market has been held in many locations around Halifax, Nova Scotia, including Keith's Brewery building on 1496 Lower Water Street. In 2010, the majority of the cooperative members of the market moved to a new building, which is part of the Halifax Seaport, and took on the name Halifax Seaport Farmers Market. A small number of vendors choose to remain in the old location and rebranded themselves as the historic Farmers Market. Good for you. But I had no idea. This was completely...
Am I back?
I hear you. Do you hear me?
Yeah, it's amateur hour. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to appease everybody in the chat who says... it is what it is. We're going to leave it at that.
Yeah, Kathy says audio difficulties tonight. Yeah, well, a couple of knuckleheads get together, and we don't have the best technology up here in Canada, eh, buddy? We're basically got tin cans and wet string tightened between the two of us here.
Gets us across the Rockies, no problem.
Oh, for sure there, eh? Well, we did just have a storm here, too, actually, about an hour before you and I started chatting at, an hour ago?
Let's blame it on the storm, then. That's what all this was.
Yeah, it was a thunderstorm, and there was some lightning. So, Patty G says you both sound okay.
Okay.
Mark says you sound fine to me. Yeah, okay.
Good enough.
Melt Syracuse.
I won't fiddle
both sound
anymore.
good. Good. All right. Excellent. So yeah, the oldest continuously operating farmers market in all of North America.
Cool.
Started in 1750. So Halifax been around a while there, buddy. 1750, prior to that even. And of course the Mi'kmaq been there for tens of thousands, but
early on in the reclaiming of the New World or the Old World, I think. Just
That's
like
right.
Boston and all the rest of it in that area.
Yeah. I mean, not too far. In fact, in that the Halifax explosion, it said that Boston played a huge part in sending a lot of aid to the people because, I mean, basically the whole area was destroyed, so people had nowhere to live, and it's not like they could just heel toe it out of town to the next town. It's in the middle of the winter in Canada on the eastern seaboard, the North Atlantic, basically.
Not fun to travel in those conditions.
No, Jack Frost is doing a lot more than just nipping at your nose. He's nipping at a lot of other stuff too.
Hey now.
What did you say?
Anyways, one last thing to have a look at here quick, and this one's very interesting. It's about some buried stuff, Victorian era buried stuff. And then we'll take a mid-show break. For that break, I've got a 7-minute video from, I believe it's 2018. It's a tour of parts of the Halifax Old City Hall that the public usually don't, they're not too privy to. They're not let in there and let poke around. There's a few tour guides that give us some very interesting narratives, shall we say. But before we do that, I've got this one last article here. This, again, links below. This is from cbc.ca News Online, so it's government-funded news network, publicly funded through the government. So, again, take it with a very healthy grain of salt. But the quest to find a Victorian-era rink buried beneath the public gardens. And again, this is from 2018 as well, so a little dated, but I'd never heard of this. Had you heard of this, Chris?
Not until you told me about it before we went live.
Very strange. Archaeological work is underway for clues to a covered rink that was operated for 30 years in the 1800s. Here's art by Henry Buckton Lawrence in 1870. It's in the Art Gallery of Nova Scotia. The rink itself. Within its manicured lawns and fragrant flowers, the Halifax Public Gardens is the epitome of serenity. But take a look below the surface, and there's a lot going on. Isn't there always? I mean, come on. Take a roll the surface.
Just a little scratch is all you need.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, Lisa Schlesman in the chat says, Frankie, lived the Hudson's Bay building you recently... Oh, loved the Hudson's Bay building you recently did. Are they demolishing it? I hope not. The old historical Hudson's Bay buildings, Chris.
I saw it when I was there.
Dotted across Canada.
Yeah.
The Bay is out of business. The Canadian Tire has purchased the Bay's intellectual properties. But the Bay's got...
business, right?
One of the oldest in the world, and I think the second oldest in North America after some old cotton plantation or sugar plantation down in the southern United States. But in terms of a corporation, not just a company, it's the oldest in North America. It's the second oldest company, but the oldest corporation, yeah. They started in 1470. No, 1670, excuse me, 1670.
Yeah, that's the narrative around these parts too. Hudson's Bay Company came in and set up their fur trading posts as they were reclaiming what was here. Yeah.
So I don't know who owns those buildings. I guess technically whoever the creditors are that, I don't know. I guess they own, because I mean the Bay wasn't just a chain of department stores. They were a holdings company. They owned hundreds of thousands of acres of land and millions of square feet of retail space. So, I mean, I don't know what's going to go, who owns those buildings now and what's going to happen to those old buildings. But if they knock them down, I'm going to lose my mind.
Yeah,
because they're like palaces.
Yeah.
You know, and they've already dumbed them down over the decades anyways, you know, taking off the embellishments and making them, quote unquote a little bit more modern looking, but there still were beautiful buildings even after taking down the statues and a lot of the other stuff. Anyways, getting back to the article here. It's a much more dynamic environment underneath the ground than you would expect, said archaeologist Jonathan Fowler. Oh, no shit, buddy. His hands resting on a special machine he's using to find the ruins of a Victorian-era rink built in the heart of Halifax in the 1860s. The large wooden structure was 55 meters long by 18 meters wide.
Wow.
So that's about close to between 50 and 60 yards long.
Yeah.
And almost around 20 yards wide.
What are you doing the conversion into imperial for?
Wow, because of American viewers.
Oh, yeah, of course. I'm sorry.
You can't try to dominate with the metric there, eh? That's not the Canadian way, buddy.
I think John Levi in his most recent video had a little rant about how much he likes metric.
Well, it's easy because everything's divisible by 10, right? So, But they say it's a large wooden structure. But if you look at this artist drawing here, this to me looks like
wooden blocks, maybe?
Blocks or bricks? No,
not
with
wooden
big
blocks.
windows.
Yeah, that doesn't.
Look at the depth of these windows here. Can you see where my pointer is?
Maybe it was insulation, R value, and a faux brick facade. Oh, no, wait, that would be modern day.
Yeah, I guess we'll just have to take them at their word. So the rink in the public garden is believed to be British North America's first permanent covered skating rink, and it operated for 30 years before it was torn down. Why would they do that? Anyways, they say it was a little bit smaller than a hockey, standard NHL size hockey or arena rink.
God, that's huge for that time period. That's crazy.
So a Victorian era ice skating rink that was a little bit smaller than a modern NHL professional hockey rink. That's big.
That's big.
It's very big. So this summer, Fowler's surveying a site at the edge of the gardens near South Park Street. South Park there, eh, buddy? Using electromagnetic equipment.
Well done.
Hey, that's right, Philip. Which sends out radio waves that bounce back when something is discovered. LiDAR. Just say LiDAR. So buried structures down there like stone, foundations, brick, ... This will cause an anomaly, a feature to show up in the data. And if we do it carefully, we should be able to map the outlines of buried structures, said Fowler. I thought you said it was wood. Why are you talking about stone and brick? The rink featured lighting that was powered by fuel.
Okay.
And there were washrooms there.
Whoa.
1860, people. In Canada land.
Nice find.
In Nova Scotia, where they have long, cold-ass winters with multiple feet of wet, heavy snow. So Fowler is on the lookout for any piping and plumbing that might remain from 1860. God bless you, buddy. I wish you luck, pal. I hope. I really hope. The rink featured lighting. Oh, yeah, I got that part already. Sorry. The rink was members only at a time when the section of the public gardens wasn't so public. Oh, it's for the highfalutin folks, you see. This would have been a more select group, kind of higher socioeconomic stratum of society that would have access to this. Yes, absolutely. Oh, I say.
I wonder what kind of people. Actually, that was more Cockney. Never mind.
It's close enough. So it was a sort of the elite of Victorian Halifax, said Fowler. Back in those days, it was a hub of societal activity with ice skating in the winter and, get this, roller skating in the summer.
Wow.
Was roller skating a thing in 1860?
I'm going to look it up.
Yeah, because that doesn't sound right. I thought roller skating maybe started in like the 1920s or 30s, because you see some of the old black and white movies where they just become talkies. Or actually, no, even some of the silent movies. You see Charlie Chaplin roller skating. But I didn't think it would go back to the 1860s.
You know what? 1760s, we're told they were invented by a Belgian inventor. Just quick search there for you. Fact check.
Really?
Big fact check for you.
Melted Syracuse says, I need a brick detector. Yeah,
Like that, yeah.
don't we all? Don't we all? That's, yeah. Okay, so I guess roller skating was more popular than we thought back in the day. So a few maps, photographs, and architectural drawings remain, but Fowler said, other than that, very little is known. It doesn't take long for people to forget. They even have it here circled in the background behind this beautiful building here with the mansard roof and the dormers. This old photo. So, but it doesn't take long for people to forget, I guess. Thanks to a $1,000 bursary, he'll be able to do the work this summer and bring his students from St. Mary's University to the site in the fall. We're hoping that our data will better resolve the picture of what's there. It'll tell us how much of it remains intact and what its status is as heritage resource. At this point, there are no plans to dig up the ruins if they're found. A decision that will ultimately be up to Halifax Regional Municipality, said Fowler. Heidi Boutelier, a supervisor at the Public Gardens, said given its National Historic Site, special precautions are taken. We're going to protect the public gardens, not to do anything rash or rushed if we do anything at all.
Sounds like they're going to protect the narrative.
Yeah, and yes, and try not to disturb things, and so they could say, yeah, it's the old roller rink, the old Victorian roller rink, people. Nothing to see here. You know, what are you poking around here for? You know?
No questions, damn it. No questions.
So Fowler's work is funded by Janet and Jock Murray. Cool name, Jock. Jock. What's your name? Jock Murray. My wife, Janet. Janet and Jock. There's the couple there, I'm guessing. Good for you folks. They set up a bursary for their daughter, Sue Ellen, who died 4 years ago. Oh, sorry to hear that. She loved the public gardens, Janet Murray said. It's going to be good to know more about it and more about the people who lived in the city and what they did and how they enjoyed their Sunday and Saturday afternoons. Despite growing up in Halifax and visiting the public gardens often, the Victorian rink was a piece of history Murray only learned when she met Fowler. Yeah, see? Locals that live there their whole lives and go to the gardens all the time. They had no idea. I think the history of Halifax is incredible, and we don't know it, and we are not aware. And what we really need is a museum of the history of Halifax, because there are little things like this that are very exciting and very interesting.
Well,
you need a museum, but you need a museum, but you need a private museum.
Yeah, that's a can of worms if you really want to get into the history.
You know what? They're Murray family. Open your own museum.
Yeah.
Open your own museum. Don't
Really?
let some clown the government open a museum and put everything in their archives and then, can we see them old papers discussing the blah, blah, blah? What old papers discussing the blah, blah, blah?
Yeah. Makes you wonder about those public parks as well, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's like golf courses and all that too, right?
Graveyards and all the rest of it, yeah.
Mega Triumph asking, roller skates turned into hockey? No, skating's pretty old too. I think lacrosse, which comes from a Mi'kmaq game, became hockey, ice hockey, I believe. You guys are the best. You know, people are flipping back and forth between both of our channels to get the views on both our channels.
Oh, nice.
You guys are great. Thank you for doing that. I appreciate that. That's awesome. Thank you. Oh, there's photos coming. Corky Goss in the box. No other photos? Will we get some? That's where Chris is going to come and knock it out of the park.
Well, I think he meant of the rink, but there's nothing left of that.
No, there are no photos of the rink except for that one that was circled in the background, and then that one artist's etching, or it looked like a pencil sketch, really. Could have been pen and ink maybe, but yeah, that's the locals, you heard it right there from those folks that donated a bursary. They'd never even heard of it. And they hang out in that park all the time. So right below them, right below their feet in that public park is some old world structure that they're trying to pass off as a Victorian old-timey roller rink. I couldn't even get it out without laughing.
Yeah. 2018, there's definitely trying to cover their tracks as we go down through time and discover more, you know.
Absolutely. And how did it get buried? How did it get buried?
Shovels, Frankie, shovels.
Just that night, a bunch of hooligans came with shovel loads of dirt and buried it after it burnt down or whatever, or got destroyed, and then they just giggle. The next thing you know, the town's none the wiser.
That's right.
I don't get it.
Nice find.
So, yeah, that one surprised me. I was like, wait, buried Victorian roller rink? This is all kinds of smelly. This is all kinds of smelly. Just doesn't make sense. So what do you think? Take a mid-show break here, buddy, and show that video. And then when we come back, I imagine you've got a nice folder of old photographs to share.
I do. I have a file. Yeah, let's take that break and we'll hop into it for sure.
All right. And again, as mentioned, this video, I believe, is also from 2018. So there was some kind of big push in 2018. Oh, no, this is 2013. So, yeah, I almost tried to make up a conspiracy that didn't exist. But anyway, 2013, 7 minutes long. It's a tour of the old City Hall building in Halifax. And they get into some of the spots that the public generally, or the general public, don't get to see. So stick around, and we'll be right back after this very, very interesting break. So we'll see you on the other side of 7 minutes. Thanks again, everyone. Cheers.
Hi, I'm Mayor Mike Savage. Welcome to City Hall. Come on in and see some of the things that nobody ever gets to see.
Hello, welcome to the sub-basement of City Hall. My name is Bruce McNabb, and I'm the author of The Metamorphosis, The Apprenticeship of Harry Houdini. This is the true story of Harry Houdini's summer-long tour of Nova Scotia and New Brunswick in 1896. Houdini landed in Halifax, Nova Scotia on June 15, 1896, and he had 2 weeks to prepare for a show at Halifax's Academy of Music. He was a member of a much larger magic company. On Thursday, June 25th, Harry Houdini left the Carlton House Hotel on Argyle Street and walked down to City Hall. And at the time, City Hall housed the Halifax Police Station. And where we're standing here is the sub-basement of Halifax City Hall. And you can see the footings down here for every cell, every upstairs wall where the old jail used to be. It's an incredibly interesting area here. Houdini introduced himself to Halifax's police chief, a very tall fellow named John O'Sullivan. He was an Irishman, so he had a thick Irish accent. Harry Houdini was a very short Hungarian, 5'5", with a very thick German/Hungarian accent. So it was quite a meeting between the two men. Houdini told Chief O'Sullivan he could escape from any handcuff, leg iron, or other restraint in his collection. And Chief O'Sullivan happily snapped a few pairs of handcuffs on Houdini. And Houdini retired to the chief's office, and sure enough, within a few minutes, he had escaped with the handcuffs all unlocked. The chief wanted British naval arms and locked them on Houdini. And Houdini had never seen anything like British naval arms in America, and Houdini was in trouble. He went into the chief's office, and he had a tough time. It was a very elaborate double lock system, and Houdini fought with it for about 4 minutes, and he got free, but it certainly wasn't easy. And then Chief O'Sullivan showed him how the key worked, and Houdini wanted another shot at it. He went back in the chief's office, and this time he escaped in 2 minutes. Houdini had one more challenge for the chief of police. He said, "I can escape from any jail cell in your jailhouse." So the men agreed to lock Houdini up. To show that he wasn't hiding any crowbars or lockpicks, he stripped down to a bathing suit. The policeman handcuffed Houdini and put him in a Halifax jail cell, locked the door, and they went back about their business and their daily work. They kind of forgot about Houdini, and a short time later, a phone call came from the Queen Hotel. And the staff at the Queen Hotel said, "We have a magician here who's half naked and he wants his clothes back." And Harry Houdini had indeed escaped from the police cell, and he had made his way down to the Queen Hotel through the busy streets of Halifax wearing a bathing suit.
Hi ladies and gentlemen, my name is Harry Carrigan and I'm a security officer here at City Hall. I'm going to give you a brief history of City Hall, especially just on the first floor. Most people don't realize that in City Hall, when it was originally built, there was a jail down on the first floor. City Hall was finished in 1890, and that's when the jail cells were installed here. Right now I'm standing in one of the jail cells. Down here I'll point to the door. Down here you can see where the bars have actually been cut off to update the building itself. The cells themselves weren't very big. They were only 4 feet by 7 feet, so there was not much room for a prisoner to stay here. And I'm sure his life was not very comfortable as he spent his time here. And this is the only cell that we really have any really showing it was a jail. Up here I'm showing my light up in the window. It goes out to the west end on Argyle Street. You can still see the iron bars up there. What I'm going to point out to you now is where the mesh was across the ceiling so the individual couldn't chop through the brickwork and escape. Now this mesh should be all the way across the ceiling as I indicated.
My name is Keith Rushton. I work here at Halifax City Hall. We are now standing on the roof of Halifax City Hall, one of the places we normally don't come to at City Hall. We actually access it through a spiral staircase that comes up by the clock tower. So this is the clock tower at Halifax City Hall, and you can see the face you can see from here is actually not a working clock face. The hands are at the time of the Halifax explosion, which is 9:05, and the only working face of the clock tower is actually the one that faces Grand Parade. So prior to the Halifax explosion, there were 4 working faces of the clock tower, and they actually did not put another working clock in the tower until the late 1980s. Also, this City Hall was a major aid station. After the Halifax explosion, they actually had set up an aid station down in what is today known as Halifax Hall. This was one of the few buildings in the city that did not suffer extensive damage. The structure itself was sound, and so they were able to operate their aid station from City Hall.
We are presently located in the trophy room, but however, when the City Hall was built, this was the Treasurer's office. And in the Treasurer's office, just behind me, is a big wall safe. As I indicated, it is the Treasurer's office, and he was responsible for collecting all the tax money, license money, and any fines are paid to the police department. Also, in there was stowed the clerks, all the clerks' files, because this was the only fireproof compartment within the building. Here you can see a large dial here. You had to know the combination. Very few people knew the combination at the time. It was probably the treasurer, and I probably would be it. You'll notice that there are actually 2 doors. The outer door, which is pretty heavy-duty type. Then you have the inner door, which is also locked, and you have a key, and also the treasurer would have that key under his hands. As you walk in further, you can see the shelves that are in there. All the records were kept in here from the clerk's office. And when I come here the first 2 years, all the handwritten minutes of 1841 were still stowed in the safe. And it's hard to believe, when we did open these up, they were A1 condition. There was no mildew, no must on them whatsoever.
All right, and we are back. So there you go. The behind the scenes tour, I guess, of Halifax, old Halifax City Hall. What did you think of that?
Yeah, I think I did come across that video, and they said they were refacing the building over the last 4 years or something like that.
Yes, yeah, they were. Some of that didn't really. I edited. It was a longer video. It was almost half an hour. It was over 20 minutes. So I did clip it down, and I did leave some stuff out. Some of that was very interesting. What I'll do actually is after the live, I'll include the link for the original video down in the.
But 4 years just to reface it, like and again, when in the modern day with all our technology and Just
Right, but we'll hear narratives of old city halls built out of stone back in the 1800s, late 1800s here in Canada land, built in 2 years or whatever.
yeah.
But it takes 4 years just to replace a few damaged stones and gargoyles and cartouches and scroll work, stone scroll work.
Yeah.
So it's incredible how these guys are sweating bullets trying to do that.
I might actually have that timeline in this presentation. We might actually get to see how long it took them supposedly to build it. So we'll see.
See, there you go.
We'll see.
So if you're just joining us, welcome back, everybody, to episode 16 of the Knucklehead Show. And if you're new to my channel, I'm Frankie from New West Reset.
Yeah, and I'm Chris over at Old World Exploration, and we are the Knuckleheads.
A couple of Canadians that we kind of turned the microscope back on to our own backyard and look at some of the great, crazy and goofy shenanigans in the official narrative here in Canada. And this is our 16th episode. This is our 15th Canadian city. Because we've done what? Quebec City?
Yeah, we've done Cambridge, Ontario, Charlottetown, Victoria, British Columbia, Kingston, Ontario, Brandon, Manitoba. We did a special on the railway castles, we called it, because they're hotels, but they're castles. Yeah, we've been everywhere.
That's absolutely right. There was a couple of things that stuck out in that video real quick here. First of all, when he was showing with his flashlight, you could see the bars for up above, so they couldn't break out into the street above. But that to me didn't look like prison bars. To me, that looked like the framework for those prism lights or those sidewalk lights. You know what I'm talking about? The glass, the prism glass that they would put in the sidewalks to let light into the lower levels.
Yeah,
that's what that looked like to me, instead of something with bars across.
Like
I don't think that
lights?
originally. Yes.
Yeah.
Pavement lights. Yeah. I don't think originally those. First of all, I don't think that originally that building was a city hall. I think it was founded and fixed up and repurposed. And I don't think that lower, what they're calling a lower level, originally was a lower level. And I don't think that those spaces were used as holding cells for the prisoners down there, underneath the city hall. I think that, those were added later in stages as they were repurposing the building. But that's just me. Yeah, exactly. Scottish Tart says glass bricks. Yeah, the pavement lights, prism lights, they're often called. They're not really lights. They're glass prisms that reflect the light down into the lower levels. Yeah.
But we buy a door. We call the window in the door a light. So similar terminology.
Yeah, I guess. Do you see Anna's question here?
Why are the 1800s backstories always have the buildings connected to some type of punishment? Good question. I think they're punishing us, and I think we were punished. I think there was a wholesale repopulation effort going on. Anyone that was there, that knew of the past, had to be dealt with. And I think it was systematic down through several generations that they were washing the past away, I suppose, and they had horrific ways of doing it. I think that's a part of it.
Yeah, they're definitely evildoers. You could see that in their means and in their methods of control and using weaponized fear as a tool of manipulation, right? Yeah, Corky's saying gaslighting, like now. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. A complicated form of gaslighting where they gaslight an entire area. In this case, Halifax, the city itself, but by proxy, all of Nova Scotia and Atlantic Canada, and then eventually it just gets absorbed into the narrative in the official history of the country.
Yeah, and in the world in general, really.
Yeah, and it's the same for any town or city, no matter what the disaster was. It could have been a flood, could have been a great fire, could have been a landslide or whatever. Yeah. A cyclone, a hurricane.
And Halifax's history riddled with war. Riddled.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You know,
It
going
seems to
back
be,
to
it's like the justification for all of the development seems to come out of war, whether it's the Revolutionary War or the British and French War we talked about, where they were clearing out the Acadians. Even the
hmm
American Civil War played a huge part, supposedly, in their development in the area, and
Yep.
then of course
Yep.
World War One.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. Plus, not to forget all the so-called Indian wars
Yes.
on
Yes.
both sides of the border, but within proximity to the what's now the modern border between Canada and the U.S. Right?
Mhm.
And all kinds of other shenanigans going back to the 1700s and earlier by their official narrative, of course.
Mhm. Mhm.
By the way, if you haven't already, please give a couple of fellas a couple of thumbs up on both channels here, if you don't mind. It's a great way to support us, and we certainly appreciate all of the support that you can give us. Um, Canada not necessarily always in the forefront in this line of alternative research, so it's always great to, as mentioned, the purpose of us getting together and doing these shows for a couple of years now is just to kind of share our findings of our own backyard here with everybody, because it's pretty mind-boggling, even to
You
a
know what?
Canadian there, eh?
We're putting together, you might call it a great big body of work, if you will, of all of our findings in Canada. That was a little
Speaking of
tragically
which,
hip pun for you.
yes, well, one of the great institutions in terms of musical and a lot of history contained within the lyrics of the great Canadian band, the Tragically Hip.
Oh, definitely, definitely.
So speaking of history,
Ooh.
looks to me like you've got something pretty nice here assembled, my friend.
You guys want to see my Halifax file? Here we go. All right. The All Saints Cathedral. And you see the timeline. This is a construction timeline, 3-year construction time period on this one. Bit of a grainy postcard. You're going to get a couple grainy photographs, but you get some good ones in here as well. Nice looking church, I must say. Still stands.
Beautiful.
And having that real tight stonework. I've seen some of this. I mean, you see it all over the place. Distinctly, I can remember it in Australia and some of their cathedrals and churches down there, where you have these very well cut, tight stones of different shapes and sizes. Very odd looking shapes. Look at this one here too. It's like a little bit of a hitch in this one.
Yeah. That reminds me of certain walls that are massive by comparison, but down in South America, for example, right?
And we'll see more of that too. Even the way that see how they're kind of snaked it in zigzags up here too. It's strange. It's definitely strange.
It's like a shared construction method, but separated by thousands of miles and supposedly hundreds, if not thousands of years, is what they tell us, right? That Incan wall, for example, and this church in Halifax.
Well,
but
that's
the
where
concept is the same.
Mm-hmm. And my question is, are we separate? Is it separated by that much time, or is this all just, again, they've muddied the water so much, you just have to ask the questions. We have an armory, 1890s. Now, this is that time period that always seems to pop up. And no matter where we look, the 1890s were a rockin' decade for construction. You were not out of work in the 1890s, even though there was a depression, apparently. You were always going to find work as a brickie or anyone in the construction trades in the 1890s anywhere, I would suggest, if we're going to go by the narrative. Basically a castle / hockey rink. Right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Of course. Wait. Castle / hockey / roller rink.
Well, yes, and for the warmer months, yeah.
You can apparently now we have to add that into the equation. This
Still
place
stands.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
I was going to say that they're not shy with the towers and the turrets, man. They got silly with it.
They had some mad skills, as you might say, these days. And these would all be curved, all of these stones being used, right? They're not flat-faced. These are all curved. Very difficult construction.
I mean, it's obvious. I don't mean I was staring at them, but I can't exactly control which direction my eyes go in all the time.
Here, we'll take a closer
That's
look at
right.
those curves.
Even the kiddies are confused.
Look at those curves on this armory built in the
Mm.
1890s.
Yeah, this
Oh.
by the armory. This is where you store your munitions. You know, because you want it super fancy to store your the stuff that eventually blew the hell out of the harbor and the rest of the city.
Yeah, this one survived, and you can see how deep the window wells are too. These are large cut stones, cut on an angle, very, very flat cut, and then with some sort of, uneven face to it.
But then that's those double stacking above the windows, all curved too. You know.
Yeah, you're giving that. Yeah, that's quite detailed work, I would say, and just an armory though, just a place to house munitions, of course. Yeah. Apparently, this is from the same era that it was built, so we have to believe that this is recently built at the time of the photograph, I suppose. Boer War. We didn't even mention the Boer War.
Oh yeah, well, anything that England was involved in, Canada by association would be guilted or
oh yeah,
downright ordered into, assumed
Absolutely.
into, shoved into. You guys are coming, right? We're kind of chilling over here with our beavers and maple syrup, if you don't mind there, eh? No, you're coming to the war. All right.
Yeah. It's a big stone. Look at this one. These are the gentlemen down. That's got to be a 6 foot long stone, maybe 20 inches. It's a big stone. That's some serious stonework going on there. I like this one.
Very impressive.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll move on to this is kind of a weird story too. I have it listed here on this postcard as the General Post Office.
Wow.
So I did a search for it as a post office, and it was kind of a blip. It doesn't really even show up. So because right now it is the art gallery.
Okay.
And they're telling us that it's built in 1908. It's the same building. Very little information about it being a post office, and of course the dome is long gone.
Yeah, I was going to say altered as hell, but
what about down here?
You know what's the other thing that they love to do, right? Is they would repurpose an old world building that they fixed up, and it would be the city or town hall / post office /
a little bit
courthouse / jail, right? So that's where you get some confusion in the labeling too, because in some photos or whatever, it'll be labeled as post office, other as, I don't know, courthouse or jail or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, look at the slopes with the windows that slowly reveal themselves from the left side of the picture to the right-hand side of the picture on that lower level.
Just the top of the arch, and then all of a sudden we're starting to see a little bit more. And then we got,
Wow.
Cool looking building. Here's a modern day view of the front entry.
Beautiful.
Ornamentation. Yeah, nice looking structure. And of course, it looked even better than it does now with the dome. And what do they got going on down below here? I don't know what they've done with those windows that we see here. It's like the street level is even different now than it. Hard to say. The picture doesn't reveal too much.
Yeah, because they've got, what is that, scaffolding or something in front there? Are they working on it? Or
little stucco, little patch job, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, so it's kind of obscuring a little bit of that lower stuff.
Nice looking structure, though. And supposedly they built this in 1908. That's just 10 years before the big explosion. Survived the explosion, I guess. Maybe the dome was blown off. They don't say. I'm just speculating, obviously. But
right, there you go. Well, they'll say it now.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, you got something there, friend. That sounds like a great excuse there, eh, buddy?
Yeah, right. Yeah. This is Barrington Street. Now, this is a nice looking area as well. You'll see a couple from Barrington Street. This is a beauty here in the foreground. I think these are wealthy mansion houses, whatever.
Yeah, this would be their golden mile in this city, right? Every city had, like Calgary has, Mount Royal. Montreal had it literally the golden mile. Toronto had their area.
But clearly predates the explosion. This is an older photograph. And you've got the tram lines. You've got what we call the telegraph poles up here. And some have speculated telegraph poles may have served a different purpose. And lines may have been added into photographs. Don't know. All speculation, but interesting nonetheless. A lot of spires in the background here too.
Yeah, no shortage of towers and spires off into the distance, going all the way back to the harbor.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Don't think I found this building. Not sure what these are up here, but I don't think they show up. And I looked. I mean, I looked for old buildings, and it wasn't easy actually to find old buildings of Halifax. So,
well, you know, the big explosion, like you said, is a perfect reason to. Oh, the explosion caused a bunch of destruction. 12,000 buildings lost. Well, who's to say that all the buildings that came down as a direct result of that blast? They could have been deemed structurally unsound because of the shock waves after the blast, so they had to tear it down. And of course, there was fires after the explosion that ran rampant through parts of the city. So there's that. And then, of course, they can set buildings on fire on purpose and say, well, it's just part of the big city fire.
Are you suggesting there was possibly a wholesale demolition process that proceeded after the explosion?
That's impossible!
Yeah, Barrington Street. Another, just a look. Just a quick
Just
peek.
reserve my opinion and just say I'm just speculating.
Sure. Yeah. These are nice looking buildings, though.
That's lovely with the coining effect down the corners of the building. Been there a while with that foliage growing up the side of it.
Yeah, low doors here, low level doors.
Yeah, that's weird.
Interesting.
And then one wonders what's under those stairs that lead up to what's supposed to be the main entrance.
Here
Is there another sets of doors under those stairs too, right?
And I think there is under this one next door, looking like probably a door. So interesting and looking very old.
Some kind of void or cavity under there anyways. That's whether it's being repurposed as storage. But again, for me personally, I think that what was under those stairs was the original main entrance.
It's where you put the firewood, Frankie, to heat the home.
Oh, of course. That's where you get your coal and firewood delivered.
Yeah.
And that's where the milkman drops off the bottles of milk in the morning. How silly of me.
More Barrington Street. 1897 was the, apparently, I don't know, I have that date attached to this. They must be saying that a lot of this was developed around that time on this street.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's a gorgeous building too, with all the archwork.
That,
even though they've bricked in one of those main floor windows or doors there, it's beautiful.
And a postcard of Barrington Street with the streetcars. Of course, we've talked all the time about streetcars and how they weren't just in San Francisco, which I thought growing up. But they were in every town and city that I've found had a streetcar of some sort for the most part.
Well, I'll tell you, as a Canadian kid, you know, I kind of grew up thinking the same thing. San Francisco had the streetcar. You know, it's a cable car. It's driven by underground cables. Yeah. And, you know, the only other streetcar, and I'm not even joking here, that style of streetcar or cable car was from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Mr. Rogers, classic.
Everything else that I was familiar with was either a subway or an elevated train that you would see in the movies about, you know, New York or Chicago's got the L trains, right? And then, you know, Montreal, Toronto, New York, you know, London, England, they all have subways. And it wasn't until just a few years ago that I realized that, a lot of big cities had these municipal electric railway systems. And even prior to that, they were pulled by horses. And then you come to realize, wait a second, some small towns of only like 2,000 people had a full streetcar, tram, or trolley system that would zigzag up and down through a few of their main streets in their town. And you're like, wait a sec, there's only 2,000 or 5,000 people in this town. So I think that's some old tech that was dusted off.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it was very widespread, much more widespread than we're led to believe. Like you said, you know, San Francisco, and that's about it.
Yeah, that's what they want you to think. I think it's being buried on purpose in our historical narrative, but we're unearthing it. We got our shovels out. We're unearthing it.
Well, I've got old video on my channel of the old interurban systems where these electric trolleys or streetcars would go between towns.
Mm.
So it would go from some town of 10,000 people somewhere in, I don't know, let's say Ohio, and it would go 100 miles down a track to another little town.
Interurban, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
and
really cool.
it would make its way from town to town and then eventually end up in, like, I don't know, Cleveland or whatever, and it would do this big circuit.
You think that'd be such a pleasant ride, get onto the interurban, get to the...
Oh, no, they had to get rid of that. They had to
Yeah.
just get rid of that
Yeah.
because it was so nice. It was like ocean liner travel or, the airship travel. It was a little bit more upscale. It was nice.
Mhm.
It was upholstered wooden benches in these trolleys. They had brass handrails and,
Mhm.
They had separate smoking compartments. And, I've looked inside of them at Heritage Park here in Calgary, and they were beautiful.
Mhm. Mhm.
And fancy, nice glass and etching in the glass and, velvet curtains and stuff. And you're like, wait, this is public. It's the old timey version of a bus. And it's
Yeah.
this nice.
She ain't what she used to be.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
Here's
I
that
agree.
same look down Barrington. There's that mansion we saw earlier, and you can get a sense of the buildings maybe a bit better too. And again, you have the raised entryways here on the structure, 4 or 5 story structure, depending on if you count below level. Looking like there's a bit of a well, lower area below
Yeah.
here.
Got that mansard roof on that building just before it with a bunch of dormers in it too. Yeah.
Yeah, dormers sticking out the side. So really well developed city at that early time period.
And again, in the background, all those towers with domes and spires on them.
Yeah, exactly. Water towers too. You see this a lot in early photographs. The water tanks on top of the buildings. Quite a few here. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, that's something that I associate with New York City for some reason.
I come across
Some
it
of
a
the
lot in my
boroughs.
research too. Yeah, YMCA. Somebody pointed that out there too. There's the Y. There's always a YMCA.
Yeah, Channel 53's got an eagle eye, spotted that one.
Yeah. We have a bit better bird's eye view. I don't have the date on the bird's eye view, but I think this is probably a nice way to highlight the... what shape is that? What do you think?
Looks a little bit like some kind of, let's just say some kind of heavenly body.
Something in the sky that
That
twinkles.
twinkles. Yeah. Hey, Jinx, you owe me a beer, eh?
Check out the harbor here. Holy. Some big structures
Not
down here.
messing around with all those piers and everything.
No.
Man, oh man. And what year was this bird's eye, supposedly?
I don't have the year on it. Apologies.
Oh, okay.
It's early though, definitely.
Probably 1890s, early 1900s at the very, very
Latest, yeah.
latest, I would guess.
Yeah, right in that time period. Something big going on back here.
Yeah,
Sure
that's
what that
huge. What
Yeah.
is that?
And then, okay, there's a big park. I'll get to this a little bit later. This is a tower. I can't remember the name of the tower. We'll see it as we keep moving forward. So there's all sorts of batteries and fortifications along this area here. And out into the water, we'll get to that. So interesting area as far as militarization of the underground. We've speculated a lot on this channel. I speculate a lot with guys like Kairos and Mark at Our Melted Reality about the batteries being batteries, not necessarily in the sense of military sense, but much more to the story. And of course, we got a central star fort in Halifax, Nova Scotia, of course.
And always adjacent to some kind of water, whether it be a river, a canal, the seaside or shoreline of a lake or ocean. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. We have the early firefighter. I'm starting to really like these old, for photographs that everyone lines up to get their photo taken. Here's the fire department, the early fire department at the time.
I love I love these two actually, and I like the I mean, everybody had a uniform. I found an old photograph of an old moving company from 1909, that you'd hire to
Yeah.
move your furniture, right? And they all wore uniforms. I mean, the guys
Yeah.
that pump your gas and clean your windshield in your old jalopy back in the day, they wore a uniform.
Yeah.
But these guys' uniforms are wacky. They get this funny white bib there and stuff.
Yeah.
They look
Almost like a
Santa
gentleman's
Claus.
organization, right?
Oh,
And,
well, they probably
sure.
are. These guys
Yeah.
are probably, the
this
the
guy.
Stonecutters Guild. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. They're all the firefighters. They look a little awkward in the uniforms too. The Mr. Top Hat looking casual with his legs crossed in the photo.
Yeah.
These
Sure,
guys
of
don't even
course.
look like they want to be in the photo. They just like,
No.
oh, this doesn't fit right. Why am I wearing this? That's kind of what.
Except
it
for
looks
a couple of guys with their hands on their hips, but those guys,
like. Yeah.
they seem like sugarfoots to me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. And just one of the residences nearby, looking like the armory, built in the same fashion.
Beautiful sort of reddish stone,
Mhm.
conical dome on it, all the little bobules on top. It's lovely, actually. And again, a lot of curves. That ain't easy, man. Especially in Atlantic Canada, again, I have to reiterate, Canadian winters on the eastern seaboard.
Look at this detail. That's interesting, isn't it? Bit of a wavy. Like you have to cut the stone to fit the wave.
Yeah, that little skinny stone there, that last little skinny one.
Yeah.
Right there, yeah.
Serious
man.
business, man. Serious business. The
Come on.
Show me all the blueprints.
Yeah. Another street view. This is Hollis Street. Just to give you, again, what are we looking at in the foreground down here?
Not to be confused with Hollis, Queens in New York.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's just outstanding.
These are
horse and buggy era too, Again, right
these
in
are
this photo.
multi-storied, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-story structure right here, and all jammed in tight together. Look at the. You can even see on the postcard. You can see the weathering going on here, the stone work.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it was whacked up 5-10 years ago.
Certainly not, and I don't think that the early 1800s, soldiers. Like the story just doesn't fit what we're seeing, as usual. Yeah, this is kind of a postcard of the ones that they do date back to a very early time period. Like
these are the ones that they'll admit to, is basically what you're saying.
Yeah, some of these going back to the late 1700s. You'll see some of these as we move forward as well. This circular one and this little thing on the edge of a hillside. It makes you wonder how much is buried, really. And that tower I mentioned earlier, I believe that's the bottom side of it.
Huh.
Yeah. This is nearby. I actually don't have the name of the town. I wanted to include it just to show that the architecture is surrounding Halifax. It's not just in Halifax. This is a post office custom house nearby. Ticking all the boxes, as they say.
Could be that, was it Bowersville or Dartmouth, one of the towns that was eventually absorbed into Halifax.
Yeah, it says new something. I'm not sure. Anyone locals will tell me right away, I'm sure. New.
It's probably in around the harbor, though. If it was what did you say, a customs house?
Yeah, post office customs house, looking pretty well built. Beautiful looking building. I like the look of that one.
Yeah, it's. I mean, this is. Portal on top, mansard roof again, arches everywhere, the coining around the windows and the corners of the building. It's beautiful.
Very detailed. Yeah.
Curved dormers in the roof there above. Yeah, right there.
That's
sure, because that's easy.
Yeah, anyone could do that. Right. I like this one too. Let's take a closer look at this one. Again, coming from that same era. This has got to be early 20th century. Let's zoom in on some of the faces. You tell me, are these happy individuals? Or I don't know. I just got the sense that these people are not happy in their lives.
They're not having a good time. It doesn't seem like they're having a good time.
Yeah, I don't know.
And look at the hats on the ladies, eh? I mean, it's not a. I'm not sure what this event is. I'm assuming it's some kind of garden party. This guy's holding a pistol, for Pete's sakes.
It's gonna blow her head off.
What's good? Yeah, quit smiling at me like that, or I'll blow your head clean off.
I'm not sure.
I don't know what this is, but the ladies went all out with their hats that have got to have dead birds and flowers in them.
I don't know if they're all ladies either. To be honest.
Hey, oh, come on now.
I mean, it's not a nice thing to say because
you never know.
Yeah.
But then all the dudes, like, who are these guys? Some kind of military? Like, what is this? Some kind of military banquet?
Yeah, I don't know. It just seems strange, and I wanted to include.
This guy's dressed like a pirate. What's going on here?
This guy here, yeah, right. This guy's doing well for himself. The top hat again. That's a symbol of wealth. All right, bowler hat, I suppose.
Well, if it's that's more of a bowler style.
He looks like a devil with the ladies, though, surrounded him.
It looks like King George or Nicholas.
Yeah, a little bit. Anyway, I just wanted to capture that because, like, oh, look at this guy. He's letting us know.
He's up to something.
I don't know. The people of the time, because it makes me think of the orphan trains and the repopulation, the reset, and, like, where were people's heads at that time? What did they
why
know?
are these guys all dressed up like privateers with pistols and whatnot? Like, what in the Sam Steele's going
Those
on
are
in this
not
photo?
real. Those mustaches are not. That's not a real mustache.
No, come on. That's as crooked as hell. What are you doing, buddy?
Yeah, nothing grows like that.
Some of those mustaches are real, but those two are not.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous, man.
Anyway, it's a funny photo. I thought I'd include it. And a nice building in the background with a greenhouse-looking building of some sort.
With all kinds of fancy architectural detail. Yeah, because that's what you want when you're going to grow your tomatoes. Is you want tomatoes. You're going to want something real fancy.
You gotta put the scroll
with a pediment over the door and everything too.
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah. And of course, the bricked-in streets, we have to show that as well. And how so many of these were covered with blacktop.
Yeah, they just paved right over it. Yeah, they just not a problem.
It's just a way of erasing the past. This looks like it's gingerbread striped. If we had a color photo, we'd probably know. But you can see.
Yeah, that looks beautiful. It looks like they spared no expense. You've got the big transom windows just down above on the main floor there too. The big massive square windows.
Yeah, early 20th century. You get the stone railing going on here. All looking well established, all of this. Not looking new. And they'll tell us a lot of it was new at the time. So, another look over into the harbor. This is from the Citadel, they call it, the Star Fort, I'll call it. You can see
the Citadel at the top of the hill. They refer to it as a Citadel, but it's very obviously a Star Fort when you look it up online. Because it's still there. You can still see that it's star-shaped. Some of it's been buried and some of it's been removed.
Yeah, it looks like a hill, but it's shaped. Just like so many of them are. Look at all the spires here too, again. They're just everywhere. Now I threw this one in, although I don't think it's an old world structure. It's one of the railway hotels, Nova Scotian Hotel CN station next to it, or it may be a modification of something that was there before, which I think they did a lot of as well.
But it's been defaced, dumbed down, brutalized a bit, redressed,
built up, redressed, whatever it might be.
But an old buddy of mine calls that a Victorian tart up.
Yeah.
They tarted up Victorian style.
This is a place nearby. I'm just showing a little bit more of the area. Let me just show everybody where this is before I go any further. So this place called Truro, there it is, right there, not far away.
Okay.
And I just thought it was worth including because check out what they have in this place. This is in 1889 in Truro.
Oh, okay.
Let's just take a look at the architecture.
It's pretty built out. It's on the harbor too, it looks like, or a harbor.
Yeah, on the other side of the island, but you can see the style of building, and this is just to illustrate architecture of the time. The mansard roofs, the spires, normal school, exhibition building, post office, YMCA. They're all there. It's all there, and it's everywhere.
I've never even heard of this place, bud.
Yeah, let's check out there. There's some of the big buildings. Truro. So I know it's not Halifax, so it's a bit of a cheat, but I wanted to include it just to show that it's everywhere, not just in this.
Well, yeah, it's a perfect example.
Yeah.
I mean, if this bird's eye sketch was labeled Halifax, I would have been like, yeah, okay, sure. You know,
Yeah, exactly. A place
because of the similarities, and the similarities all over the realm, really, when you break it down.
Another place nearby, Lunenburg.
Yes.
To show.
The famous schooner that's on our dime.
Oh yeah. Is associated with Lunenburg?
Yeah, it was built in Lunenburg. It's famous for its sailboat building. It's one of its claims to fame.
Interesting. I'll get back to Halifax. I don't want to confuse anyone who's watching this. We're focusing on Halifax. The Martello Tower. So we saw this a few times now. This is just a postcard of the tower. I'll show everyone where that is, actually. Let's go back to the map. And this is a good time maybe to get into the surrounding area. So here's Halifax. We were up in Truro. We just came back down to Halifax. And we've been focusing on Halifax. You can see Dartmouth on the north shore there. And that Martello Tower is part of this Point Pleasant Park, I believe.
Ah, yes, this park. Okay, yeah.
And as I zoom in, you can see what is here. There it is. Martello Tower. Still stands a part of the park. And again, very similar to the Star Fort, overlooking on a hill, overlooking that bay. Right.
And it seems to be on a raised, it's up on a hill, but even there's a raised portion that sits atop the hill that this tower is on.
Let's look again.
So I'm thinking that maybe there's more.
Yeah, this
below
sort of
that
sloped land, and then you get to the treed area.
Yes,
yeah.
That's what I'm seeing there.
And then if you look down into the trees here, what you're seeing are batteries or forts, and you can see them on here. Point Pleasant Battery, Northwest Arm Battery, Fort Ogilvie is there. So this whole park area, Pleasant Point View Park, is just riddled with all sorts of old structures that are just embedded into the ground.
Yeah.
And of course,
yeah,
like a lot of them up.
At least 6 or 8 feet, but if not more, in some spots by the looks of it.
And as we'll see moving forward, that there's all sorts of underground tunnel systems in these areas too. We're going to be taking a look at this island here, George's Island, and McNabb Island here is also riddled with forts and batteries, as you can see as I zoom in. Huguenin Battery, Fort Ives, there's another battery there. They're everywhere. They're everywhere.
I think wherever there was star forts or so-called batteries, there was tunnels. And speaking of tunnels, I wanted to mention too, going back to that video that we watched during the break of the City Hall of Halifax, where they're saying that the escape artist, what's his name?
Houdini.
Houdini, the escape artist, when he got out of the cells and then ran to a hotel through the streets in just his bathing suit. I think he probably made his way through the tunnels underground that went from the city hall to the hotel.
Nicely done. Yeah. Good point.
I don't think he would have been able to get from the so-called lower level up to the main floor, exit onto the street level, and then make his way down the street to the hotel in broad daylight in just his bathing suit and not cause a commotion, especially being a recognizable guy.
Yeah.
He had been in town and he was promoting the fact that he was going to be in town in Halifax for a while with his performing troupe of, acrobats and magicians and so on.
Yeah, well, we should put a call out. Anyone who's from the area knows any more about the underground workings of Halifax, throw it in the comment section if you're watching the replay. If you're watching live, throw it in right now. But I would love to hear more about. Everyone's got stories. I worked in a pub downtown. It had tunnels that went to the adjacent building. No matter where we look, we get those stories, don't we?
Yep, I think the tunnel thing is much like when we talked about the electric trolley or tram or whatever you want to call it was much more widespread. I think
Mhm.
tunnel's the same thing.
Which
There's
is
a great question in the chat, by the way, here.
Mm.
You guys have any idea what type of construction equipment they used to build those buildings?
or what they will tell us, or what they actually used. That's sort of, I think what we're getting at is with the technology that they had at the time and the resources and the population, it's very difficult to believe the stories we're told about these structures as far as when they were built and how they were built. There's much more to the story.
Yeah, like quarrying and rough chiseling stone. The technology hasn't changed in thousands of years. It's a few pilot holes, some chisels, and you hammer it in a line. It eventually splits the stone. Then the finer work is done with finer tools.
Yeah, you have to face
even to
it.
this day, they don't split stones with lasers or any super high-tech equipment. It's pretty much like, in terms of when they're quarrying it, it's pretty much old school shims and chisels and dudes swinging mallets and hammers to initially get it going. They use the finer equipment to kind of get the smoother finishing, and then when it's delivered on site, the final finished fine work is done. And I think it was the same back then. The thing is how they get it on site, especially pre-railroad, when they couldn't just build a temporary track to the job site to build the state capitol building or the library or whatever it was.
Yeah,
unload all the products and everything and get to work.
Yeah, what I'm suggesting with my research too is that technologies have been lost as well that allowed them to do these things.
Yeah.
It's not what they're telling us we had and what was actually available are two different things, I think.
And by what they were telling us they had, you have to think, okay, well, there was hoists with pulleys. There weren't even cranes really yet. It was horse and buggy. And it was brawn and strength, and put your back into it.
Elbow grease.
Yeah, good old elbow grease.
Yeah,
exactly.
These are superhuman feats, especially with a lot of them have such short build times. The superhuman feats.
2 years or something. So there have to be some kind of lost knowledge, forgotten.
Our history's been rewritten
and technology.
The timeline's been rewritten and things have been omitted. I think it's pretty. To me, it's pretty clear. This is an early hospital, 1859. Apparently, this is the original hospital, and it's been expanded on. I think it's supposed to still be in the same location. No doubt they're using whatever underground was there at the time in the modern day. But that's early, 1859. Even in the narrative.
PCS World said they used skyhook. They could have used airships to lift, big stones and some of the statues and gargoyles up to the tops of the building, and even lumber and roofing material and stuff. They could have used dirigibles and stuff to do that for sure. But it's still the logistics of everything. Just by what they tell us we had at our available to us at these times. You had to think, there had to use some kind of technology that's been hidden from us, or we've been. Yeah, obviously we've been lied to.
All we can do is speculate, right? And we have is the framework that we can envision. There's elements of that we don't have in our perception. That I think that were there. I think that's part of the deception is making us use what they told us that we had to try to make it fit, which I think is. Have to depart from their narrative, I think, to really understand of it. This is the city hall we saw in the video, which they've been refacing for 4 years. I don't have a timeline on construction, but I have a start date, 1887. And do you have the massive retaining wall here along the foreground?
One wonders what that was for.
Yeah, it's interesting because you have a door here. And then you have another floor. So the street level would open lower than the back door here, or the front door, whatever you want to call it. So interesting. And there it is in the modern day, like we saw earlier on. That has been, you can see they've been doing some work here. Refacing.
It's still a beautiful building.
Let's also look at the difference between the drawing. Let's take a look at the upper areas of the drawing. What do we see here? We have some cupolas. Perhaps more detailed. I think something may have been removed here. You can see even in the modern day, you have the lower archways, and you have the little railing keeping people from falling down into there.
Yeah, don't fall down in this weird hole in front of this building on the sidewalk, buddy.
Yeah. And it looks like they even had a balcony thing there that looks like it's no longer there. Maybe it is. Sorry. Nice looking building, 1887. That's early again. Early. A modern monstrosity here in the background.
Yeah, just to compare and contrast.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There's that town clock I was talking about.
Timmy in the chat says chisels are us.
Yeah, they're wizards with the chisels, and no doubt they were. I know that craftsmanship has certainly dwindled, but I think the craftsmanship that we look up to is residual from the old world craftsmanship that was probably on a different level.
I think Water the Tree may have something here. The airships delivered a lot of the materials to the job site, and it was eventually made obsolete by the Hindenburg disaster and trains being more widely used. Mm-hmm. Right, the train narrative, the Transcontinental Railroad in the U.S. and in Canada. That was a big deal in the 1880s, 1890s.
Mm-hmm. This one's a part of that Citadel Hill. Said it was built in 1800. This little clock tower thingy with the columns.
Wow, no, that is early.
Mm-hmm.
For Canada land, for the official story, that's pretty early, even for the East.
There it is, and you can see the topography going up to the Citadel. Looks very buried.
Can you go back to that black and white one for a second, if you don't mind? Mm-hmm. If you look just almost in the middle, in the background, there seems to be some kind of tower sticking out of the ground.
Here.
There, yeah, right there, with some kind of weird antenna or something on it too.
Even this one's got a little corner. Maybe that's a water tower, not sure. But yeah, I don't think that one's still there. Even in the foreground, you've got the stone walls down. I would imagine this certainly looks like it wants to come down further.
Oh yeah, that looks like the top of a much larger, more stately building. Yeah, that's wider too.
I'm not sold on the little box that was put here either. I know it's in here as well, but that doesn't look like it was part of that. So buried, probably.
Yeah,
possibly.
It certainly would appear so anyway.
Nice looking iron front building in that downtown area with the detailing.
Yeah, that's lovely.
Look at this detail here. Very interesting.
That dental molding too, eh? It's great.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a shoe store now, I think. Old English shoe shop. 1883 is when they date this one too. I didn't get the population demographics of Halifax. I don't know if you can pull that up at all.
I'll try that now.
Yeah. I don't imagine it was very big during this time period, even though it had the hustle and bustle of the harbor. 1858, we have a courthouse. This one was built in 1858. God, that's early. Check out the stones here. We got a beveled stone.
Okay, so 1858. So 1861, there was 40,000 people. The earliest date they have is 1851. Yeah, 1851, 39,000. 1861, 49,000.
And then turn of the century, what do you have there?
It jumps from 1891, 71,000. 1901, 74,000. It's not a big jump.
No, and 70,000 people at the turn of the century. So still not a large city by any means.
No, not for a harbor city.
No. And look at the front. Look at the front entry here. Is that a construction?
Shack.
This is the Inheritors, and this is the Old World.
Yeah.
Just so everyone's clear on what we're getting at here.
Yeah, the biggest population jump was between 1951 and 1961. It jumped 39% from 160,000 to 225,000.
I wonder why.
But in the old days, from the 1850s to about pre-WW2, it went from 40,000 to 100,000.
It's not huge at all.
No.
Here's
so pretty steady growth.
Some lions for you in the front of the courthouse. They've covered up a lot of this, what we saw here. We've got shrubbery now, so you can't see a lot of the details on the front there. Or I can't see it anyway from this angle.
Oh, they just love to plant that shrubbery.
Yeah.
It's a cheap way to hide all that stuff, right?
Sure is. Yeah, and it's a nice landscaping, I'll say, I suppose. But yeah, front entry, lions, 1858. Remember, they're doing this. 1858.
Sheesh.
Some heads up here as well. Interesting looking columns too. A little bit unique. We have a customs house lighthouse.
A customs house and lighthouse.
Yeah. I don't know. It's weird, strangely labeled. I threw it in there. Right on the water. Looking like there's some aftermarket deck thing going on around the outside of there. I threw it in there because I was looking at the customs house, which is this one. They call it the new customs house. They'll tell us it was built. Actually, let me get the date for you. There it is. This was built in the 1890s, this customs house. It was demolished in the 60s. Yeah, let's go back to the postcard. Demolished in the 60s. Looking
That's
very
a beauty.
regal. Yeah.
Yeah, that's quite the cupola on top, too, with the clock towers. That's quite a substantial tower building. Wow.
1890s, right? About 70,000 people living there. Here's a close-up look of the clock tower.
Look at that roof on that thing. Huh.
Metallic roof. Yeah, nice. Nice looking, very well constructed. Very well constructed.
That is not easy, man. Like, I know I keep saying that over and over, but...
Yeah, well, I think that's why we marvel at these old world structures. Here's part of it that remains after it's been torn down. This is just one of the decorations that was found out front.
Another lion. Oh, yeah, this one no doubt was blasted, hundreds of feet. It was blasted half a mile or whatever. Right?
Yeah. Well, this one lasted till the 60s, this building, apparently, so...
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So they just tore it down for other reasons.
Yeah. And so here it is sitting next to the, what was it? It was a post office. So they actually had a customs house next to a post office. We saw that earlier. Remember, it's the art gallery now. The dome is sort of hiding right here.
Ah, yes.
So there's the customs house, and that's the post office right there, which is now an art gallery. Yeah. And, of course, we got to have the post-secondary education. This is part of the Dalhousie University now. At the time, they called it Dalhousie College. Fairly popular university up here in Canada. People even from where I live have gone to Dalhousie. Quite reputable in the post-secondary realm in Canada, Dalhousie.
Yeah. I've definitely heard of it. Yeah. Most Canadians are pretty familiar with Dalhousie. Yeah.
But it's ticking all the boxes as we expect it to. Here's the coat of arms of Dalhousie University.
Oh, a couple of nice griffins there. And a unicorn, of course.
And maybe a phoenix.
Yes.
Maybe.
You know what's strange, though, is, we're given this big narrative that Nova Scotia, New Scotland, and Halifax is named after Halifax, Scotland, and all this stuff, right? Well, isn't the rampant lion the lion up on its rear legs, kind of rearing up, the symbol of Scotland? So why wouldn't it be on any kind of Halifax or Nova Scotia in general related coat of arms? One would think it would be a no-brainer.
Well, what's interesting with this one is none of these animals are said to have existed at all. If that's a phoenix, that's a unicorn, and these are griffins. Or they might try to call it a dragon, but
sure, either or. But yeah, you're right. They're all
fictitious creatures.
Supposedly. The crown there with 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 4 clover things, I guess, and then 5 little spikes on it or whatever.
Interesting coat of arms at Dalhousie.
Yes.
You wonder what secrets lie beneath, of course. There it is again, that same, I think because it was the forest building, still stands. Yeah, beauty looking structure.
Yeah,
for sure.
it's Outstanding.
And quite
That
large.
red stone, is that brick? Or is
Uh,
it a stone?
I think it's a stone. Hard to tell as I zoom in.
Because there was other buildings in your file that were red, and they were definitely stone.
It looks like a stone. I'm seeing big bulgy right here. I can just make it out.
Okay, yeah. I gotcha.
So probably a stone. I wouldn't say brick. I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, people. If you know more than I do about it, which you may. Looking like brick here in the back. So you could have a stone facade in the front, but having all the dormers, of course. And not just this structure at Dalhousie. You've got this one as well, although I didn't quite get the name of this one. Having that smaller stone look. Potentially, possibly.
Urns on the columns and a portal there with some cartouches flanking it. Yep. A big cupola on top. And it's outstanding.
More structures on Dalhousie. Not the same one, I don't think. That's a different tower. Yeah. I do have a couple of the explosion. If you're just joining us, if you missed the first half, we did get into the big explosion, Halifax explosion of 1917. The large explosion, a ship blew up in the harbor. 20,000 buildings were gone, not to mention the lives lost. Just a few shots of this before we move on.
And the ensuing fires that occurred after the explosion that spread throughout the city. And then, of course, it was in the winter. So after the fires went out and the quote-unquote smoke cleared from the disaster, everybody that was left without a home, which is virtually everyone in this part of the city, had to be relocated in the dead of winter, and things were freezing, and it's brutal. It was brutal.
Yeah. In this shot, you're getting looking like the inheritors out front, showing us who they are. You see this a lot with the old fires and a lot of the old disaster pics. It's almost like a reclaiming or a claiming.
Yeah, they're just posing in front of the destruction.
Supposedly at the same time as the fire, although I can't really see a lot of evidence of the disaster. This boxes may be a part of the cleanup process. Not sure. Or those, I'm not sure what they're supposed to be. I don't want to say they're coffins, but
they might be. That's what I was actually going to say. Is those might be caskets.
They might be. Yeah.
Might be a pine overcoat.
Several thousand people lost on the day, according to the historical narrative. Here's a church that didn't make it.
Good question. Mega Triumph saying, was that a fertilizer explosion? No, it was munitions in a military ship. It was delivering munitions.
It was a cocktail of different explosive materials, if I recall.
Yes, it was TNT and picric acid, benzol, and gun cotton. So yeah, a nice smorgasbord of deadly, explosive, and highly flammable materials, all packed into one ship.
You get a nice little street light in the foreground here with the lovely detailing.
Is that supposed to be a photo of the explosion?
It is, yeah. Here, I'll go back.
Because that's different than the photo that they show on the Wikipedia that says it's the only known photo of the explosion.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And it was supposedly only taken minutes after the initial blast. A photographer happened to be, quick with the old shutterbug trigger finger, and off he went.
Yeah. Here, okay, so I talked about this earlier. This is George's Island out in the bay. There's the Star Fort in the background on top of the city. You can see. You can see the fortifications going on here as well on George's Island. I like the narrative that tells us, I can't remember what it was, some sort of residual left from the Ice Age that created the island, and then they built the fort on it. In successive different periods throughout the 1800s, a little bit closer. 1869 is when they said they did the bulk of the work because of the American Civil War, is the narrative. They were worried that the Civil War was going to expand, so they constructed this.
Well, because there were a bunch of loyalists that did come up into Atlantic Canada, and I think parts of Montreal and even over in around Ottawa as well.
Mm-hmm.
There was British loyalists that were Americans.
Mm-hmm.
And there were some Fenian raids that were done across the border.
The Fenians. Yes, the Irish, the Fenians.
And the Orange Order also conducted a bunch of raids against the U.S. and they were British loyalists.
Interesting to see the water, actually, the water level drop right on the outside of the island. You can kind of see it here. But interesting location as well. There's the Star Fort again in the background. I do have a short, I'm not going to play the whole video, but I do have a video linked. This is just showing you a little close-up of Fort Charlotte on George's Island. You can see the brick along the top here, and then the different sizes of stones that seem to have been used. Here's a look at the interior. This is the tunnel system underneath there.
Aha, yeah.
Actually, I'll quickly show you just a snippet of a video I found. This guy is exploring or going on a tour through these tunnels. Oh, there's a little bit of Prince Edward narrative for you too. We get the royal. Of course, you have to throw the narrative in there. I'll just show you a couple seconds of this. Maybe we'll link this in the description.
Why are they showing Prince Edward if this is George's Island?
Yeah, right. They'll say, I think
King George.
He goes back to the late 1700s, I believe, and they're saying it was because it's successive stages. They'll say that.
Yes, of course, that's right. I forgot. How
Yeah.
silly of me.
Yeah. We'll get a quick look at some of the materials here too. So we saw the Martello Tower across the bay from this island, and we're looking now underneath the Fort Charlotte. There's a nice look at the wall.
Yeah, I can see what you mean. It's like a jigsaw puzzle of different sized stones. Some cut really huge, some cut tiny to fit into the smallest odd shaped, because they're not all rectangular stones. They have little, like you said, nodes and little sort of pieces cut out of them.
It's very strange. And Kairos and I looked at Alcatraz looked at some of the places in San Francisco, and this just rung a bell for me as I was looking at this. So this is again on that George's Island. On an island, all this was built, we're told. I won't play much more of it, but we will put the link in the description. People can check that out if they want to. Again, on this island here out in the bay in the 1860s, they were building this.
Yeah, because we all know how easy it is to build on an island. I wonder if they used the Halifax Dartmouth ferry service back in the day to transport materials.
Yeah, they did start that in the 1700s.
Oh, John Connor.
Yeah.
John Connor and his ferry service. Oh, yeah, I can bring those giant stones across to that island for you, buddy. No problem, eh?
And there's a nice look at the Star Fort, the Citadel, as they say, and you can see how raised it is. There's Fort Charlotte on George's Island. And when I was originally looking around, I saw this photo, and I said, there's got to be stuff on this island back here, too.
Oh, yeah, you can guarantee it.
As I showed earlier, there's all sorts of forts and batteries along this island as well, and on the mainland here. If you were to go right, we would get to that tower that they showed in that video that I showed earlier as well, and all sorts of forts. So heavily fortified, lots of underground goings on in this area. And there's just an overview just to explain. So this was the part I was talking about that we couldn't see in that view. Here's the Star Fort. There's St. George's Island, Fort Charlotte, and this is the island I was talking about. All of them heavily fortified.
Just incredible,
A lot of work. Sheesh. That's a lot of work.
I'm surprised, but not shocked, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. We'll move on, though. Go back to the architecture.
I was just going to say, building on islands is no problem for a few Canucks. You just give them some beers and get them all hopped up on maple sugar and maple syrup and maple donuts. And we'll get her done there, bud. We'll get her done before the winter comes there, eh?
We got the muscles, We got the muscles.
There's 112 of you watching between both channels right now. So first of all, thank you very much. Really appreciate you Joining us for the Tuesday night Knucklehead show here, episode 16, looking at Halifax, Nova Scotia. And if you ever want a large stone structure built, just hire a few Canadians, eh? They'll get her done, island or not.
That's not going to get in the way.
We won't let that stand in our way, eh? We love building on obscure, remote islands that are hard to get to in the 1800s. Or 1700s.
Yeah. Or 1700s, yeah, right. Or this one started in 1800, the government house with the lower section fenced off again. Same old story.
Don't fall down, eh, buddy?
That's how they liked to build back then.
They loved the curves in Halifax, man. They loved those curved...
mad skills.
Yeah, man. What do you call those jut-out wings of the building?
Yeah,
they're almost like a turret.
Yeah.
You know? They just love them. We're not building any rectangular stuff here. The main building could be a rectangle, but everything else got to have a curve.
Yeah. We're still going. We got more to look at here too. This is the old Academy, built in 1877. Not a bad looking building, wouldn't you say?
Oh, man. A hell of a slope on that again. Ubu Cod, and the Do-Right and Sons Construction Company. That's right, Dudley Do-Right.
Yeah, we have the horse and sleigh. It looks like a sleigh here, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah, that I'm not surprised.
That's a sleigh, yeah, and
because every Canadian had a horse and buggy and a horse and sleigh in his garage. You could just afford it, I guess. No problem. Everybody had a 2-car garage or a 2-vehicle garage back in the day.
The doors at different levels here. Interesting.
Yeah, and where windows become doors as it slopes down.
Beauty. This is a modern. It still stands, and this is it in the modern day. You can see what they do to these things. Let's do first of all, let's look at the lower areas. It looks like a bit of plywood, maybe, and some paint.
Yeah, could throw some plywood on there, buddy. Done and done.
Yeah. Looks like they maybe painted the brick here too. You can see where they couldn't reach any higher. They couldn't get the scaffold up any higher. Maybe they stopped right there.
Oh, it's quitting time. It's time to grab an Alexander Keith's Pale Ale and kick her back and do some fishing, bud.
And the arched areas of windows looks like they've covered as well. They just couldn't figure it out. Couldn't figure out to replace them. Didn't have the budget, maybe. But look how much on the top is no longer there. Let's hop back. Look at the difference.
Yeah, all that ether fencing is gone. All the little bobules are gone.
So still a gorgeous building in the modern day, but cannot hold a candle to what it once was.
Looks like they altered the dormers a bit too.
They took the little circular windows off the dormers, and they've just, yeah, that's what they do. This is par for the course, as they say. Yeah. All right, so that's the Academy building. I assume a school, academy of some sort. Yeah. We're getting there. We got 25 photos left, so we're still rolling here on Halifax. Now, I threw this one in there. It's in Halifax in the UK, but it's a beauty, so I threw it in there. Crossley and Porter Orphanage.
See, they fooled you.
They did. I was looking around for it in Halifax, Nova Scotia. I'm like, oh, that's in the UK, but still, it's still worth a look, I think. And it's an orphanage. Yeah.
If it's no Scottish, it's crap!
That's right. Yeah. Another look from the Citadel. Let's look out over the city. We saw this one. And again, you can see how well built it is.
And you can see that huge wall. I bet you at one time the old part of the city of Halifax was just a big star city. I mean, they've got the Citadel right there at the top of the hill. Some of it looks like it's still buried. Yeah. You see bits of wall all around parts of the city. Then, of course, probably the harbor wall itself was part of an old wall.
You know, it's funny that you say that. I did see an old map, and I don't know why I didn't grab it. Like an old map that showed the those portions jutting out into the water, like a 1700s map. Early Halifax. I should have included it. So there was some sort of depiction from those early days of that shape.
Let me see if I can find it while you're having a peekaboo there.
Okay, yeah. Meanwhile, we'll keep going. The horse and buggy in the foreground. And these people are so happy they lucked out to get a 2-story stone structure. 3 if you count the basement. We come to the Intercolonial Railway Station, 1877. I think this one, well, it says the 20s. I imagine it succumbed to the explosion and eventually was demolished. I am speculating on that, but the timeline seems to fit.
This is the railway station?
Yeah, the Intercolonial
Yes,
Railway
yeah,
Station.
it was, if memory serves, it was damaged during the explosion, and then there was a fire.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense, actually.
I'm going from memory, so don't quote me on that, but I think I remember either seeing video footage or photographs.
Mm-hmm.
Because the fire raged for so long that they were actually able to get video footage of the fire.
Well, the timeline fits. I like these photos with the horse and buggies in the foreground too, with these structures all around. Not making a lot of sense. The Intercolonial Railway Station, 1877, pretty early to be putting that thing up.
I think I may have found that.
Oh, throw it up if you have
map. Let me see here.
Yes, nice.
That's the one, right?
Yep. Yeah, you can see it. 1755, it looks like.
Yeah. So yeah, you can see it goes right out into the water.
Mm-hmm. Heavily fortified.
And that's definitely Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada land. It's not Scotland.
Well, the bottom part would be where that Citadel and Park would be, I would think.
Yeah. I think so.
Even the island, what looks like an island, I'm not sure, but that's crazy, actually. Wow, nice find. Yeah, the Starfort would be somewhere in the middle there.
Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting.
And it's only a partial map too, right? So you're not even seeing all of the old structures on this.
Mm-hmm.
They probably put that bloody sticker with the date on it right over something too. You know they'd love to do that.
Over the island, probably over George's Island. Yeah.
Probably the buggers.
Nice find. I like that. Good stuff. That was pretty important to show, I think, too. I'll keep rolling on my presentation. The Khyber Club, I suppose they're calling it now, and not a bad looking structure. Massive granite blocks in the front. Lower stairs going down below on the side. Ticking those boxes.
Yeah. That's a beautiful building, man. They really looked after that one.
I bet it looked even better with all the Antiquitech that they pulled off the top too.
Just well, yeah, of course. Yeah. But I mean, it's still pretty. I mean,
what about the box in the background? What say you?
Yeah. I love it almost as much. Nope, not at all.
Talk about a juxtaposition right there.
God awful. Yikes. Ugh.
Old world and new. Yeah. We'll keep going. Here's that dome structure I mentioned earlier, Prince's Lodge. No doubt it's probably the cap of something looking like it's on a hill again. But they're saying it's from 1794. You just showed that map with all of the fortifications, and I think what we're looking at is just residual remains of something much larger that once existed here. That's what I suspect. The ball is interesting on top too. Definitely on a hill though.
Huge.
It's perched.
It's, I'm being kind of tongue in cheek, but I mean that ball is big. That's a big ball on there.
It's a big ball. They have big balls in Halifax.
Gee, no, I'd never noticed that.
Cut it out. It's a family show here.
We'll keep going. We've come to the Province House. 1819 this was built. The Province House.
You gotta have some columns on the front of that, sure. With a big pediment.
We got a couple arches down low. They didn't even have the population demographics for us for going this far back, but they were building like this. In Halifax. A lot of these structures, actually, these government-style structures, and early time frame for Canada.
We've created a monster.
I'm trying to do a presentation here. Can you keep the chuckles to a minimum?
Sorry.
There's that Queen Hotel. I think we saw that in the video. It might have been where what's his name came out, actually. Houdini.
Battlestar will get us back on track here. There we go.
Queen Hotel, 1887. They say this one was built, and I'm pretty sure that's where Houdini came out. Yeah. I recall.
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he just ran down that street in his bathing suit, apparently.
In his buckles.
Clear daylight.
As we say.
In clear daylight, and it didn't make the local papers. I couldn't find an article about it because I looked. I couldn't find any mention at all of the town going crazy because half-naked Harry Houdini was running down the street after escaping from the city jail.
Yeah. Okay. So Mount St. Vincent Convent. We're coming to the end of the file here. This is a postcard look at the detailing on this thing.
It's beautiful, though, man.
It is, yeah. And here's another structure, not the same structure, but part of the academy. Calling this.
Those nuns could really build.
Yeah, they had strong hands.
Yeah, tough.
Lots of young'uns here too. Lots of young'uns.
Yeah, it's an orphanage, right?
Yeah, I would think so. We have a school for the blind. I'm jumping around a little bit, but they probably all connected, to be honest with you.
Yeah, they're probably all in the same compound, or what at one time was a big compound.
Yeah, I think that might be it demolished in 1983, so this one survives the blast. I bet it didn't look like that when they demolished it. 1871, though, very early time period, and this is just how they did back in Halifax.
Yeah, that's 1871.
Yeah.
That's 56,000 people.
It's a big structure.
So if you live in a town or a small city of 50,000 people, do you have anything like that?
Yeah, and then you have to factor in the technology they were supposed to have had at the time and the resources and anyway. Also, this is the one I showed in this postcard, Mount St. Vincent Convent. So let's get back to that. Obviously destroyed.
Holy moly.
Yeah, not bad, eh? And is that supposed to be a cross?
I guess.
Kind of a cross. Maybe more of a. Oh, this one looks like it's been reduced
to a cross. That one's maybe a little bit more traditional cross. The other one, who knows?
Yeah, it's got a little extra on it, a little extra flair.
Sure, why not? Gotta be all fancy schmancy.
Part of a memorial you can see here from the explosion, but that's a hell of a convent. The Sisters of Mercy, I was going to say, but there might be something else. We're at work.
Sisters of Charity.
Of Charity, yeah.
Kathy's right. That's a massive structure.
Yeah. I threw this one in too because this tells us this is the King Edward Hotel next to the station, which we didn't have specified earlier. Same photograph we saw earlier, but postcard form.
Yeah, this is it's a strange picture, man.
This is interesting too. The stairs, covered stairway, I think.
Yeah.
With
a dome on it, with like one of those Squishamid domes.
Yeah. So the infrastructure to build this, remember we said this was built in the 1870s. The infrastructure to build these retaining walls doesn't make sense.
It's almost like it's a viaduct or a raised street.
Mm-hmm.
Where the staircase is. I mean, obviously it slopes down where the sidewalk and the pavement is there with the light, but so on the upper street, your main street entrance is going to be the second floor.
And I'd imagine you could probably go right into the underside of that hotel from down here.
Oh, yeah. Just going to walk right in there, bud. Off the train and walk right in.
Houdini. We'll pull a Houdini, as they say. Yeah.
Watch me get out of it. Houdini!
Yeah. The St. Mary's Cathedral and Glebe House. This must be the Glebe House here. 1899. This one was built.
That's got an impressive, really severely angled spire on it, man. It's nice.
Yeah. There it is.
That house is no slouch too. It
Mm-hmm.
just looks minuscule next to that church is all, but the house is beautiful too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And
Look
this
at
is
that.
impeccable work, really.
Look at the nodes on that steeple.
Mm-hmm.
They got
Look at
silly
that.
with it, man.
Stone all the way up to the top, right? Yeah. Just a quick look at the interior.
Yeah, Eric had lost and found history written. Put a dome on everything. No, I don't care how much it costs. Just get it done.
Yeah, right. Money is
Yeah.
not an object. Money or labor, not an object. Yeah. So here's the Citadel. We'll wrap up on the Citadel. I'll have a few shots of the Citadel, and we'll call it a wrap. Yeah, nice looking shape.
And I think this is just a small portion of the overall
Yeah.
Star City or Star Fort.
Mm-hmm.
This may have been, the Citadel in the middle, right? That's normally
yes.
what we would refer to as the Citadel. Citadel's the center point,
Mm-hmm.
the inner sanctum, if you will, of the really expansive Star Cities or Star Forts.
Yeah, you can still see the shapes here in this point going down. You can see the landscaping, and you can see how it's all formed in the same shape as the structure itself. This is massive. This is a massive star fort that we're only seeing the top of.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. So just to look at some of the stonework that they did in the 1850s in Halifax.
Oh, well, see, there we can end the show right there. There's proof that it was actually just a defensive fort because there's a couple of cannons there. Even one's pointing down to the ground for some reason. Don't shoot your foot off, Private.
You can see the red brick under here too, and then maybe a little bit of in-between action, a little bit of white and fried circuit board. Maybe.
Funny going on there.
Strangeness, high strangeness.
Yeah, I see
Very
that.
well manicured stonework here, like unbelievable. Like beveled at the edges.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
Reduced, right, and flattened. Yeah. Interesting shapes too. Look at
Yeah,
the shape
it's like
of
a
the
recessed
stone.
border around the stone. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Really, really amazing. Well, now this is what they'll tell us it looked like originally when the old redcoats were in there.
Oh yeah, just build your fort out of logs.
We
The beavers
started
will
with
help
logs.
us.
Even that's not a log back there. This is historical narrative for you, folks. This is what they'll tell you. This is what they put on the plaque when you go visit the Citadel. And these guys are just trying to move a log. Or something.
They're having trouble just moving a log, but yet look at all the stonework all over the city.
Yeah. Silliness.
Come on, boys, put your back into it now.
And they maintain that narrative in the modern day. You go to visit the Citadel, and they'll still show you the redcoats, and you try to reconcile what they tell you about the past and what you're looking at, and it doesn't fit as far as I'm concerned. Something doesn't make sense.
People are always surprised to see kilts in Canada, by the way.
Hmm.
And it's not just in Nova Scotia / New Scotland that you'll see kilts. You'll see kilts. We have a part of our armed forces is the Princess Patricia's Light Infantry, and they go to to war wearing kilts, even still.
Yeah, let it all hang out, right?
Sure, why not? The kilt is very versatile. I like a proper wool kilt with the also the sash, the woolen tartan sash that goes over the shoulder.
Mm.
You can actually build yourself a shelter and stay quite warm and dry with just using all the fabric from the whole proper traditional kilt. It's pretty cool.
There's your timeline. After 1815, the British authorities replaced the old wooden forts with powerful and permanent stone.
Well, there it is right there. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining. That's the end of the show.
I just want to thank the
Mystery
British
solved.
authorities.
Yes, me too.
Thank the British authorities for fortifying our great nation.
Thanks for taking us from the wood age to the stone age with our forts. I don't know.
Hey, take off.
All right, that's my last slide. That's the Citadel. What an amazing city, Halifax. Crazy.
Yes, I would agree. Full of surprises, as always.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Always full of surprises, man. Oh, jeez. Like, of course, when I was researching before the show, I did check out, some of the old photographs of some of the old buildings. So I kind of had an idea, but I mean, your folders are always terrific, and there was some stuff in there that's like, wow, that's pretty early on in the timeline, even for Eastern Canada. 1600s, 1740s, like that's going way back. I mean, that's still, fur trade. There's no railroad yet at all. That's like 130 years before the railroad. So it's basically all your traveling is done by horse and cart or by canoe and the waterways. And then up and down the St. Lawrence Seaway, of course, and that's pretty much it.
So something stinks in the narrative, I would say.
Fascinating exploration. But as per usual, yeah, something stinks in the narrative. Moose, yeah, Darren Jerome's got moose and buggy. Oh, for sure there, buddy?
Moose and
Gotta
buggy,
have the moose and buggy, eh?
They do say the Russian army rode mooses. Moose? What did I say? Yeah, moose. Meese.
That's what it is, eh? Come on.
Yeah.
The Russian army rode moose into battle. I don't believe it. I don't believe you. I don't think that's
that once upon a time.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. Hey, there's a guy who lives here in Alberta that's got a bison, like a buffalo, and he rides it. It's trained to use a bit and a saddle like a horse, and he rides it. And he'll ride it into town because he lives on a ranch. And the RCMP were like, whatever. They don't even bother him. So I guess if a buffalo, why not a moose? I don't know.
That's right.
Great show, buddy.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. We definitely had to dig up Halifax. I think it was a pivotal city on the Canadian map.
I think so. And it's definitely an important point that gets overlooked. And even I was guilty of. I mean, I was pretty surprised at some of the stuff, the goofy stories I found. Because again, the explosion is the big thing. And I'm like, wait, Harry Houdini performed in Halifax of all places?
Yeah, right.
Okay. But if you think about it, I mean, he was English, right? He came over from the UK. So if you're going to come to Canada, you're either going to end up in St. John's, Newfoundland, or you're going to end up in Halifax, Nova Scotia. So you get off the steamship or whatever, and there you go. So I guess but I was like, okay, Harry Houdini, sure, why not? Why not?
I see a couple of our East Coast timeline folks are heading to bed. Probably about that time for some of you, for sure.
It's getting pretty late, eh? Yeah. Good night, Kathy. Yeah, Kathy's in Kentucky, so she's a couple hours ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.
We hope you enjoyed our exploration.
Yes, indeed. Hey, before we go, you got anything you want to plug there, buddy?
Oh, yeah. Well, I have my weekly videos. I got a conversation coming up on Sunday. It'll be a live conversation with Guy Anderson. I just came across his work. I don't know if anyone's aware of Guy Anderson's work. He's written a few books, relatively new to the old world subject, but he's got a lot of interesting insights. He's from the UK, so we're doing a morning my time live on Sunday. So definitely want to check that one out. It should be a good combo. He's a good conversationalist. And I'm working on Demolished Buildings 3, or as I'm calling it, 101 more demolished buildings from Old World North America. So that should be coming out in a month or two. So
that's your third coffee table book in that series, but it's not your third book. You actually have a couple of other books too, don't you?
I do have other books, yeah. I have another book I did with John and Melissa Reiser, The Matrix Reloaded, yet again. That's also available on my channel. But this one is the third part of my trilogy of demolished buildings, where I bring you just when I thought I'd found them all. I started digging, and I ended up getting enough material for like 4 or 5 books. It's crazy how much is gone. It's crazy how much you find when you start digging.
Yeah, and it's exciting, and it's adding another piece to the puzzle, but at the same time, it's kind of a bummer because they're not around anymore, and it's like, how could they look at themselves in the mirror after giving the thumbs up or the okay to let loose the wrecking ball or the TNT or whatever the hell to knock these down, and it's then you realize they're evil. They don't care. They feel no guilt when they look at themselves in the mirror. You know, they've got their agenda, and the useful idiots are following the evildoers, and
Yeah.
you know, they're
And
doing
my rationale is
their bidding.
Is to have these live on in memory by recording them. That's sort of the point of why I make these demolished built books, so people can remember that they did once stand.
Yeah, the former glory can be held forever in hard copy. It's not digital. No one can ever take it away from you. You've got it in book form in your hands. Put it in your bookshelf, put it on your coffee table.
Show
Friends
your
come
normie
over.
friends.
Yeah, they come over and they go, "What's this?" "Oh, thumb through that."
You know,
Do yourself a favor and thumb through that for 5 minutes. You know?
my mother thinks that these are all fake.
Really?
That's where she's at. Yeah.
She
My
thinks
dad tries
all
to
those
show her
old
my
world
books. and
buildings
She
are
thinks
fake?
they're all fake buildings. They didn't actually exist. That's where she's at.
Huh. So she's like at the total opposite end of the scale.
Yeah, contrarian, I would say. She's a contrarian.
Bless her.
What a conspiracy theorist, eh?
Yeah, no kidding. They're all fake.
Yeah.
You know how they say everything's a lie? Well, everything, even them buildings, is a lie.
That's right.
Sure, why not? Who knows? Let's see. What have I got going on? Oh, I've got my documentary film coming out sometime this summer here. Keep your eyes peeled onto my channel for that coming up. Reset 1700. It's my documentary feature-length film about my theory as to what what was the tipping point for the most recent reset in Western Canada and in the Pacific Northwest of the United States.
Cool.
That led to basically that 1850-ish date that seems to come up so very often. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. Of course, I'll be continuing to do my Boots on the Ground every Friday, which is kind of like your books. You know, I want to preserve it for posterity somehow, some way. So I will record these old world buildings before they eventually get knocked down, because Calgary's a boom town. That's our narrative.
Yeah, it is.
So you got to make way for progress. One of the fastest growing cities in Canada and in North America. So, you know, they're knocking them down like flies.
Yeah.
So I think that's it. I think we call it on this one, eh, buddy? That's
Sounds good.
Halifax. Done and dusted. In the bag, episode 16.
Yep.
So as a reminder to everyone, links below for everything that we've covered on my channel and on Chris's channel for these, once they're re-upped after the live. And thanks to everybody once again for joining us on both channels for the live. Really, really appreciate all the support and the continued support. All you got to do is do all the things, all the YouTube things that a million channels tell you a million times to do, because it does really help, especially with this subject matter. YouTube doesn't help us, so we've got to help each other with this. So all the support is greatly appreciated. So yeah, thank you everybody for spending a little bit of your Tuesday night or your really early Wednesday morning with us for the Knuckleheads episode 16. So thanks, Chris, and thanks to everybody in the chat, both chats. Appreciate it. And that's going to do it. What are we going to do next, buddy?
Not sure.
Okay, email us.
Yeah.
Links below to how to
Or
get a hold of
comments.
us.
Throw it in the
And
comments. Where do you want us
comment, email us, let us know where you want us to hit next for the Knuckleheads here in Canada. Or who knows, maybe we'll take it on the road again. I don't know. Let us know what you would love to see. We'd be happy to do it.
Okay.
All right, everyone. So that's going to do it. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your week. And we'll both see you again really soon.
Good night.
Good night.
I'm in love with the old world. 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 Love your old world ways.
I think that was like our best show ever.